Rough day?
No, I just have the law.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll call the regular meeting of Township Council for Monday, July 13th to order. Of course, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, and in particular, acknowledge our valued relationships with the Katzie, Kwantlen, Matsquit, and Semiahmoo First Nations. With that, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Ferguson, seconded by Councillor Rint. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question on A1. That carries unanimously. Get a motion to adopt the regular council meeting minutes from June 29th, moved by Councillor Rint, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Any discussion on B1? Seeing none, call the question on B1. That carries unanimously. We have four delegations today. We'll start with the first one, Laurel Battistel. Please come forward. Great, thanks for coming, and go ahead.
Thank you. So my name is Laurel Battistel, and I've been living, working, and raising my family in the Township of Langley for the last 25 years, and I'm speaking about my concerns with the commercial vehicle truck parking on our RU-zoned lands. First, I want to acknowledge the importance of the trucking industry. The truck operators are truly struggling with a lack of proper truck parking for their operations. They're being forced to find their own solutions, which is increasingly to purchase and use small ALR lands. The ALC clearly prohibits this type of use as a non-permitted use of ALR land, as over the long term it destroys our farmland. Our RU zoning bylaw 2500 allows 3 commercial vehicles on properties greater than 2 acres. This is more than Surrey and Abbotsford, and it does not provide enough language that clarifies the boundaries and the restrictions and activities that occur on those properties. Our neighboring communities have bylaws that provide more clarity. Bylaw 2500 was created in 1987, and it's outdated given the frustrations expressed from both the farming community and the truck operators. It needs to be amended. Langley allows more trucks on smaller parcels, which puts a target on each parcel of our ALR lands. The real estate company, called BC Farm and Ranch Realty Corp., actually advertises our property on many of their postings as a great place to park your rigs. One of my own neighbors runs refrigeration trucks, which requires the constant running of motors all day and all night, sometimes all weekend long. Refrigeration trucks have to keep contents cool, and when it spans over several days, nobody in our house gets sleep. I did not purchase property in a commercial or an industrial zone, yet it sounds like it most days. Langley has to support the truck operators at the same time as supporting our agriculture, which Langley has become known for. We have to protect the equestrian community, the farm gate sales, the U-Pick produce farms, wineries, food production. We can be different and special here in Langley. Development of designated truck parking facilities needs to be a priority. Council should be working on this as a priority and collaborating with our neighboring municipalities and provincial government. We already have the Gloucester industrial lands off Highway 1, so expansion with ample truck parking would be the most logical solution from a layperson's standpoint. This will likely require a request to remove ALR lands, but it can be in an organized and defined area close to the highway and not on private lands. I know I'm running out of time. I would like to see a task force created with public involvement to come up with a solution. The City of Surrey has already done this, so by working with them, we can expedite the process here in Langley to find a solution. Please consider reviewing the City of Surrey and Abbotsford bylaws and consider updating our bylaws to include clear boundaries and restrictions on activities that align closer with what the ALC wants for these properties. Many of the bylaws in Surrey and Abbotsford define things that need to be defined so that we can restrict some of the activities. For example, the refrigeration activity, that's not parking. That's actually running a motor that's interfering with my paramedic son getting up in the morning and trying to function the next day. So I'm really upset about it. and I'm not gonna let this go, and you'll probably see me again and again. All I'm asking for is a review of that bylaw 2500. It's 40 years old now. It makes no sense that we're still running with that, and we absolutely should not be offering more parking than our neighbors in Surrey and Abbotsford. All that does is it ensures the destruction of our smaller ALR parcels. That's it. Thank you.
I have a question from council.
sorry.
You can come back, please.
Yes.
Yeah, Councilor Richter, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. So the area that you're in, are they
Yes.
the smaller parcels?
Yes, so
Like-
I'm on a smaller 5-acre parcel. We've lived in the South Langley area the whole time. I watched Councillor Pratt grow up there. I am concerned because my property is actually a sloped 5 acres, and it borders the Little Campbell River.
Okay.
And this property in question is one over from me, basically at the top of that slope. So the fact that all the trees were ripped down and these trucks have been parked, I actually have photographs of 7 different colored cabs operating off that property. They have figured out that you only need to park 3 vehicles at a time, and then there's nothing that we do about it. So, you know, I can take all the pictures I want, but unless the bylaws actually really explain in detail what these restrictions are, there's nothing. I call bylaws and they say, well, they're allowed to have 3 trucks there. It's like, okay, but it's a different 3 than that were here yesterday. So this is, you know, when you look at Surrey and Abbotsford, they actually say that these trucks have to be owned by the people residing on the property. There's limits like that can be introduced. I'm not saying that we have to get rid of these trucks completely because they have nowhere to go. I recognize that, but a lot of work could be done, like Surrey did, to try and designate a specific organized section of land that could go for this purpose, where, you know, they're not parking on private property, because what's happening is it's a piecemeal breakup of our rural land instead of just having an organized parcel where they can go.
And the other properties that are around you,
Yes,
roughly.
active farms.
They're all active farms, so there's
Yeah.
only one property that's causing
So I
this.
can't, in all honesty, I can't say for sure, right? I know that several of our neighbors have goats and lambs, that's what they're running with. We ourselves, as a hobby farm, we produce 4 to 5 cows. We have chickens and eggs. We grow vegetables on probably the most non-viable farmland you could have. So in British Columbia, I can't buy the argument that we have non-viable land that can just be removed from the ALR. That's not true, because at my house, we do it all, and we do it on really yucky land. So the surrounding neighbors are sometimes, some of them are hobby farmers, some of them are true, like they're industry farmers. They're selling the meat for the public consumption. But it's becoming more and more frequent as I drive through the area. The land is purchased, the trees are completely cleared, gravel goes in, and then the trucks start cycling through. And if we're not paying attention, I'm not saying that, like, there's a lot of very, very rural-minded truck operators who are doing it the right way, and they are paying huge fees to park in the actual designated commercial truck areas. And that's not really fair, that these smaller properties are getting away with running their own side business and offering parking for you know, the local truckers. It's just, we have a problem, and I'm not saying that one side should win over the other. It's gonna take a compromise between both sides, but we can still preserve the way South Langley and North Langley, all of our ALR lands, look. It's just an ongoing problem with a lot of people that I talk to.
Okay. And my last question is, have you had an opportunity to put requests for investigation
Yes.
into township staff?
Yes, so I did, and I did hold off on that. So I like to think that Langley, we're neighbors who try really hard to get along with each other. And so my approach with this property was to I've written 2 letters now to them, respectfully requesting, just pull the behavior back a bit. Let's meet in the middle somewhere. because that's what I think good neighbors do. I understand that someone may need to get in their vehicle and drive to work every day and come back and park their truck at the end of the day. That's something a good neighbor can tolerate. But no change in behavior has happened. So it was actually just, I think, 2 weeks ago that I filed an official complaint with both the Township of Langley and the Agricultural Land Commission, because I just can't watch it anymore. And when no behavior changes, it's a pretty obvious sign that they don't care.
Yeah.
To me, I take that very personally, because I tried to meet in the middle, right? So these refrigeration trucks it's not 24/7 all day, every day. It's piecemeal, like it'll run usually on a weekend because someone's parking their truck and holding things in a refrigeration truck all weekend long that has to stay cold and frozen. And those motors they're a nuisance, and you can't sit out and have your morning coffee anymore. But I'm not on industrial and commercial land. I should not be faced with this. If I was beside a farming community where they've got to run their tractors, I mean, that would be another noise, but it's a noise you expect to have in the area, and it's for growing food. It's not something that I'm ever going to be opposed to.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, as a delegation here today, under our procedure bylaw, the only thing that we can do today is hear you out and refer your delegation to staff. And Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to make notice here that I'd like to make that referral notice to staff to look into this.
Thank you.
Can I do it now, Mr. Mayor, or should I wait?
No, there's
until-
other speakers, so come back. Councillor Whitmarsh, you were next. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for coming today. Appreciate you being here, and appreciate you trying to find a win-win solution for this. I think that would be critical as we go forward on this type of issue. I just wanted to clarify that I heard correctly what things you're asking for, so I kind of wrote them down.
Okay.
One was that you would like us to look at updating our bylaw, which you said was over 40 years old since the last update around truck parking.
Correct.
That's the first. The second was, once we do that, and maybe even before, but is to have a stronger enforcement of the bylaw and being able to identify situations where people are not following the bylaw.
Yes.
Is that correct? And then the third one I heard was a task force. And I was just wondering around the concept of the task force, if in your mind that was more related to the bylaw, or was that more related to trying to find a long-term solution for truck parking
Yes.
in the Township of Langley?
Long-term solution, because that's what the city of Surrey has done. So they've got a full document that's readily available. If anybody wanted to consult with them, it would probably expedite the process for Langley. You could move faster maybe through the process, but there was a lot of community engagement there. And what came out of that was some truck parking, a truck parking facility that was created that created 150 spots. Again, nowhere near what is required for these truck operators. So I do feel for the truck operators. What else are they going to do if they can't find parking anywhere? I get that. But the task force would be specifically to come up with a middle ground solution. And with most of our property in the township in ALR, unfortunately, it would require pulling some out in order to probably make those spaces. But it needs to be in an organized way where there's a designated spot, because what's happening is it's just getting torn up in little spots all over the place. There's no organization to this. There's no regulations. There's no oversight of any kind, really. When I called the Township of Langley to talk to them about the complaint, the response was, well, there's nothing we can do if all they have is 3 trucks parked there. Well, they're cycling 7 different trucks through there, but they're wise enough to keep only 3 at a time. Do I blame them for that? They don't have space for the 7 that are cycling through. So I'm not really angry at anybody. I'm just angry that there hasn't been a solution yet for this, that we haven't come together and worked with the provincial government and our other municipalities to really make an effort to find proper parking for the trucks. It's a valuable industry. We've got agriculture, which is huge, and we've got the trucking industry, which is huge.
Right.
And they're both equally important, but, we can't just look away anymore, because it's
Right.
causing a lot of damage, and more importantly, it's actually causing damage between relationships in our community. Langley should be people getting along, compromising, trying to help each other out, and all it's doing is creating tensions between groups of people, which is not good.
Right, just the final, do you happen to know when approximately Surrey did this report and?
So Surrey, I'm
Task
guessing
force?
again, I think it was about 2018, 2019 that
Okay.
they started looking at this as it created their task force with an agenda, the first steps, there were different stages and steps involved. I don't know exactly when it was concluded. I want to say 2023, 2024, which is a crazy long period of time to allow it to, that's why I'm saying we need to expedite it. We need to consult with people who have done this before so that we can skip the messy parts and the slow parts and actually come up with a solution.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
that's really great.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, no. it's fine. Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, thanks for delegating, and I know this is a really huge issue, and especially when it affects someone that lives right beside the trucks that are noisy and parking. Do you know if the property owner, does he own the trucks and he just cycles them through, or is the property owner using his property as a sort of to, generate revenue
Yeah,
for?
I have no idea because, I wouldn't approach the property because he's got some big loud dogs. So it's not, that's why we have to involve bylaws in this, right? To give proper notice and, to actually deal with the issue. And I would assume either he does own them all and he's desperately trying to follow the rules of only having 3 at a time on the property while he's trying to make his living. It could be that situation, or it could be that he's set up to allow other refrigeration truck companies to park there cheaper.
Right.
Then they would have to pay at the commercial areas where it's gonna cost more.
How long has the reefer trucks been sort of on the property? Is that a new thing
So
now?
we moved there 4 years ago and everything was fine. We had no problems. The property that sits between us and them, sold. And it was almost immediately upon the sale of that property when that lady moved out, that neighboring, I don't know why, they chose their time. They thought
Yeah.
maybe it wouldn't get noticed. It was almost immediate. So 2 years ago, it started. I sent a letter after about 6 or 7 months, because as a good neighbor, again, you start thinking, okay, maybe it's a temporary thing. Maybe something's happened and, you don't jump. I don't jump on my neighbors.
Yeah.
So I sent the first letter 1 year in, and the second letter was May of this year, and there was no changes.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, it's been dead quiet there for the last 2 weeks after I spoke to my MLA, Harmon
Awesome.
Bangu. And he didn't ask for my exact address, but he did ask approximately where I was located. So I don't know if that has anything to do with the truck noise suddenly stopping and not being active at all for the last couple of weeks.
Maybe he heard you're delegating. Honestly, I just wanted to add, I think really we need our provincial partners to help us with this issue. It's a huge
Absolutely.
issue all across the Lower Mainland. And we have highways and corridors that, we need to get transportation, or we need to get these products from, point A to point B. And we definitely need help with that from people like Harmon and other MLAs. But thanks for delegating, and I'll be supporting Councillor Richter's motion.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good to see you today. Thank you for coming to delegate. I just wanted to reiterate what was said earlier. I really appreciate that you came here with the problem, but you came with solutions and you've done your research. And I think it's excellent. And I saw 4 key takeaways that I think Councillor Whitmarsh has already outlined. And so I just wanted to say, excellent, well done. I will be supporting Councillor Richter's motion to defer it to staff for a report and see what we can accomplish. And yeah, it is a big problem, as Councillor Kuntz said. So yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your delegation. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on. We'll do all the motions at the end since there's 4 delegations today, so we'll get those done. Mr. Baines, are you here today? Yeah, please come forward. But I've made a note, whoever wants to move these motions, no problem at all. So, Mr. Baines, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Woodward and respected councillors for giving me the few minutes to present my request. I own a property in the Glenwood area. It doesn't have an address, it's land only. It's on the southeast corner of 24 Avenue and 206th Street, a couple of blocks away from the elementary school at the corner of 208 and 24. I purchased that property off a senior couple back in 2017. At that time, there was, or still is, a no-build covenant on the parcel that I bought. I won't go into why that no-build covenant was put on. It was with the previous owner. It was something to do with the subdivision of a larger parcel into smaller ones. But like I said, I bought it in 2017 with the plan to either move my family out there. I live in South Delta. My parents live a block away from this property on 22nd. But things changed. I had to put my son through law school. My daughter's currently in medical school. So our plans were to stay closer to UBC for a while. But what's happened, so I bought it in 2017 in October. And with my luck, I think 2 to 3 weeks after I bought it, the new Brookswood OCP was adopted. And in that adoption, Glenwood was left out of future development for the time being. As you know, the other 3 areas have their NCPs, they're moving forward. But Glenwood is there's no plan for it at the moment. So that's where my property is located. And then in 2019, 2 years after this new OCP, I thought the best idea would be to move on to this property with my family. I asked at that time council to allow me to build a house on it, move on there. And they said, okay. I think you guys have a copy of that email from, at that time it was Jack Froese, Mr. Froese, and Mark Backen. So they allowed me to build a home on there and move on. But again, due to certain financial situations at home with the kids going abroad for school, we decided to hold on to it and wait till they finish and then we can decide. So what's happened since then, it's been 10 years, time flew right by us. The amount of debt on that property has doubled for me. So for me to build a house on it and add more debt to it, it doesn't make sense. So I tried to sell that property to help finance my kids' educations. But both buyers kind of want to build on that property and live on it until some future development does happen in the area. And like I said, Glenwood is, from what I understand, at least 7, 8, maybe even 10 years away of any kind of development. So anyone looking to purchase this land wants to live on it, just like I did. The property has city water on it already. It's fully serviced. It's 2 blocks away from an elementary school. All around it, there's single family house. I'm sorry, it's not single family. There's roughly SR2 zoning all around it. So people are living in the neighborhood on all 4 sides. So my request is to expand that or remove that no-build covenant so that somebody can live on that property over the next decade or so, rather than leaving it empty as it is. Because right now it's, like I said, a financial hardship for me, and nobody's buying it, saying that what are we going to do with a land that we have no idea about? We'd rather live on it. So that's my request. Like I said, right now I'm allowed to build on it and move on to it according to that last email. I haven't got an update from the current council and mayor. I did ask and they told me to bring it on as a delegation today. That's all I have to say. I think I don't really see the reason for the no-build covenant. It's a neighborhood full of families. Everyone's living on their property, 2.5 acres, or farming it. My parcel is sitting there, turning into a jungle, 2 blocks away from an elementary school. So that's all I have to present. So my request is to remove the no-build covenant. At least somebody can live on there, and I can sell it.
Yeah, do you know what the reason for the no-build covenant was for? And you bought it with that on it, right?
That's right, yeah. I bought it with the knowledge that it's on there. But like I said, 2 weeks after I bought it, the OCP changed. It got passed where they said, we're gonna leave Glenwood out of it for now. We're gonna focus on the other, 3 areas. That was a shock to me because I wasn't planning on holding this that long. So if my memory holds me correct, the no-build covenant was put on there because the whole corner was a 5-acre parcel owned by a senior couple, the Crutchleys. They're a pretty long-term family there. And the mister was diagnosed with cancer. So they owned the 5-acre parcel and had an option on that land that we want to subdivide it and sell the home and the 2.5 acres to somebody and keep 3 acres for themselves, for their retirement. That 25-year period for that piece of paper was about to expire. A year before, it was in year number 24 when I purchased it. So they approached the city saying that they were relying on this piece of land as their retirement. We need to sell it. And the city said, after some debate with them, that, okay, we'll divide the 2 parcels in half, the 2.5 and the 3, and you can sell it to somebody, which that's when I came in, then I bought that. So that, because at that time, you have to service, with the OCP, you have to service the properties. Although it had water, it didn't have sewer. So to bring sewer from 200th Street was about a $2 million cost for those seniors. And so I think the council, the staff at that time was understanding, empathy, that this gentleman's, sick. So we'll do what we, and at that time, they slapped on a no-build covenant. But in my view, being a neighborhood, I don't know the reasoning for that no-build covenant. I mean, that's how it got put on,
Okay.
Yeah.
But you did buy it with it on it, right?
for sure, yes.
Okay.
But like
That's
I
all I
said,
wanted to know.
yeah, 2 weeks after that, the whole OCP
Plan
changed.
changed, okay.
And.
And you said it's serviced now?
Sorry?
It is
It's,
serviced?
water's there, city water's there, fully
Okay.
paid for over the last 25 years.
Right, okay.
So a potential occupant, if someone was to build a home on it, they would have to put a septic.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you to Councillor Kuntz that got the information about whether it was needing a septic field or not, and you verified that it would need a septic field. So just confirming that your request is to be able to extend the grace that was given for you to be able to build a home on there to someone else who buys the property so they could build a home as well. Otherwise, it's almost impossible for you to sell your land. Is that correct?
That's correct. And at the end of the day, it's just being treated like the neighbors are. I mean, everyone's living on their 2.5 acres. They're living on there. So it's not something that's going to be outside the ordinary. If somebody or myself was to build a home and live on it, you can't develop it until there's an NCP or some future plan or some motion by the city. So it's not, I really don't, I'm having a hard time kind of understanding why the no-build covenant was put on, but I understand why they did it because the bylaw stated otherwise at that time.
Right. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna double check here that, so you said you can, because I don't think that's accurate information. So my understanding is that you are also not able to proceed to construct a building at this time because the no-build restrictive covenant prevents the construction of any structure. Is that correct?
If I go by the email that you guys have, which is before you came from the last council, they already have said to me that you can go ahead and build a home for myself only and live on it and sign some piece of paper that I'll stay on there for 5 years. This was back in 2019, but I never came across to exercise that. So I'm under the assumption that I'm still allowed to build on it, but I guess to make it clear, you can confirm that that will still be honored. But I think the bigger picture for me is to have the no-build removed so somebody can occupy that land until the long-term picture of Glenwood is straightened out. Right now, I've had it for 10 years, thinking it was going to be 2 years. It's going to be another 10, I think anyways, because the other areas are land development is so slow right now. And I can't afford to move on there. I've got 2 homes in South Delta that I've put on sale. The market's just not really good. Even this Langley property, the buyers are getting a good deal, but they stop when they say that if we can't build a house on it, why would we? What
Yeah,
are we
so
gonna do?
my understanding is, I've looked into that email, my understanding is that there's no council approval that substantiates that email. So I think it's something that needs to get clarified for council as well as yourself.
Okay.
And second of all, too, if you recall, the subdivision was approved, was applied for at that time and approved under the condition that the second property would not be developed for a second single-family dwelling. So, because subdivisions at that time were not permitted. So
Right.
I just want to be clear that that's the information. The no build restrictive covenant was put on the title as a condition of the subdivision
That's
to
correct.
allow the subdivision to proceed.
That's right.
Right. Councillor Bailey, go ahead.
Yeah, and Mr. Baines, I see on that email that you've got condition number 4 is that you would have to provide a guarantee and a bond that you would own it and live on it for 7 years, correct?
That's right.
And you never did that?
Well, we never applied for a building permit. I mean, that email, the stipulations on there were based on the fact that if I had built, that would be one of the requirements. But I never pursued, I never applied for a building permit. Right, so what, yeah, so I think that, from my understanding, that means that if you build, we give you a building permit, you build a home on there, you have to give us some kind of guarantee you're not gonna move for 5 years, financially, some kind of bond or something. But we never got to that step.
Yeah, and the same, you never applied for a septic system also then?
At that
That's
time,
another
no.
provision, right?
No.
Okay, thank
Like
you.
I said, I had other obligations with my kids that prevented me from building a house at that time.
Okay, thank you.
And I think it'd be good to clarify that that email may have been suggested to you as an option to pursue for council to consider, as opposed to informing you of a council decision.
Well, if I look at that email, it says in there that you can go ahead and begin the application process to build a home.
I think the key words begin the application process to be approved by council. Councillor Ferguson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Baines, for coming. I do remember you appearing before council in 2019 to discuss this issue.
Right.
And I know that it was important at the time between yourself and the council today to be empathetic of the situation you're in. And you wanted to build. And I think I can't see the exact minutes, but I do see the email provided for us today. So number one, I guess it'd be good to get the minutes, but number two, it's important for you to build immediately because I knew that at that time you wanted to proceed. Now, 7 years is a long time when at the time the empathy of the council was for you to be helped during that time, not 7 years later. And that's the difficulty for us today. But I don't have the minutes in front of me, so I don't know what the vote is on that, even though there are 4 important conditions to address for any landowner.
Yeah, well, I can't, explain the last 7 years of my life, but as you know, the example I gave you, within 2 weeks, the city changed their plan of what they're gonna do with this area. And I'm not, that's the city's decision. That's why I'm still holding on to that, otherwise it would have been dealt with back then. But I don't see the benefit either of how the city, staff or yourself, what the benefit to the city is that you can't live on your property. Although it's something that was done 10 years ago, I'm trying to talk about today. Like, what benefit is there? There's elementary school there. There's services on the property, right? I understand that the last council made that deal because they wanted it to be serviced, but that option's not even available anymore. You can't do nothing to this land until the city decides to do an NCP, which can be 10 years away. So they're telling you, you can't live on it either? I think it doesn't make sense from the city's perspective. Paying taxes just like everybody else, right? The city water's there, we paid for the water services are right at the property. So what is the benefit? If there was some kind of benefit to the city, I would understand it, but there's no benefit to the city. There's nothing really negative of a person living on their property. I think the neighbors would be happy, rather than living next to a jungle. The biggest thing for me is the elementary school. I don't think it's safe. A property that someone's living on gives more of a community feeling, right?
Okay.
But those
anyway,
are
thank-
just my arguments,
I
right?
did remember you saying those exact same things 7 years ago, and it was important for you to build at
Yeah,
that time.
and they still are important.
Well, I
Don't get me wrong, they still are
I
important.
don't want to interrupt you when you're speaking, but that was important at the time. As I say, it's 7 years later. I don't have the motion in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
and Mr. Backen is not on staff anymore, so I'd have to double check with him. But thank you very much for coming today.
No problem.
Yeah, the comment was made earlier, Mr. Baines, that we probably need to refer your delegation today to staff to get clarification on it, because the email that's been included here is quite clear. Council's approval of your request was made, subject to the following conditions. That the no build registered on the property be removed if, one, there's a septic system, two, a water supply, home to be situated to fit within a future lot, and confirmation that you would inhabit the property for 7 years. So if that was a motion of council, then the corporation is, that motion hasn't been rescinded or reversed or revised or removed, so it's still in effect. But I agree that, and I believe it was the mayor that made the comment, that we probably do need to refer this to staff now to get clarification on it. So I would support a motion as we can for delegations to refer to staff for a follow-up report.
I appreciate
Thank you.
that. All I'm asking is that email, just to have another line on there that any owner of that property can live on it, not just me. Because I can't sell it to anybody, that no one wants to live on it.
Well, yeah, and that's part of the clarification that we'd have to seek from staff now, is was it restricted to you or was it restricted to the property? Because if it's on the property, it's not you. You can still sell the property, but whoever buys it from you has to come in and meet the 4 conditions.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. My understanding was that that email applies just to me, that I can go through with that, and not to a new buyer. So the clarification that I'm looking for is this email still valid? And secondly, can we expand it to anybody building a single-family home on there and living on it?
Well,
Not
and
just
that's why we need to seek clarification on what the motion actually said back then, because it's clear to me there was a motion passed
Yeah, okay,
back in, looks like 2019.
2019, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, great, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, third delegation is Ms. Lee. Please come forward. Yeah, you have about 5 minutes, and thanks again, and go ahead.
Thank you for coming, let me to come in here today. I believe I'm asking for to remove my tree penalty because I cut in 11 trees without the permit. And the first thing here I will say, by 2026, January, probably about 4th, my husband, we come home, then we go to the backyard. We lucky to come to the backyard because my husband, we usually outside working, we really late to come home. Usually when we home, it's already dark. On the winter time, we have a really last chance to go to our backyard. But that day, I don't know why my husband go to the backyard. He saw the falling down trees, lying on the other trees. The line down probably about 45 degrees. And that's right on top of my house. And I have the rental house, 1,500 square foot on the property. And if my husband is not go to the backyard, I believe I cannot stand here to talking with anybody else because the tree is dry falling down on the house. That is a cottonwood. I believe it's this big. We never thinking about we want to cut in that trees. But naturally, the ground is too soft and the tree roots is all pop out. And that's why that cottonwood is falling down on the other big tree branch. And we are so lucky, the branch is stop the tree keep falling down. And finally, I have really emergency to call some tree cutting company to give me the code to clean up that tree, that falling down trees. But when they come in, they tell me that tree size is too big. I need to go to the city, get the tree cutting permit. So at the next day, probably about 8:30, I already in the city hall to the tree department. I asked him to have the tree cutting permit. They give to me that permit. And then they tell me to pay the permit fee. Then I'm got a permit, I go home, I call the company to come cut the trees. They said they cannot do it. It's because the tree is already 45 degrees lying down on the tree branch. They cannot climb up because that's too dangerous for them. And also have the tree is already, because they have two separate trees. One side is completely rotten. If they climb up, they can be like falling down in somewhere else. So they tell me they need to wait until the ground is harder, the machine can drive in, then they can cut the trees. So I've been sleeping under the trees from January to June, and until the ground is harder, then they can drive in the machine in. But they still keep the schedule back until I and my husband, we finally find out we cannot wait anymore, it's enough. So I go rent the machine, like a lift-up machine by myself. And I and my husband, we just use the machine to cut the tree by ourselves. And finally, I'm so angry about it. So that's why I cut 2 cedar trees right beside the house in 5 foot from my house. And I also cut in 1 rotten cottonwood without the permit. I also cut 7 cottonwood right beside me and my neighbor's house. And why I cutting that 7 trees is because any tree is falling down, either way it's on my house or gone, or my neighbor's house, or any of the branches drop will be right on the kids' swimming pool. The kids is playing all day long in that swimming pool. So this is my reason I'm here, because my guilty is I cut in the 11 trees without the permit. But I also sleep in that lying tree 6 months for my scare. And also the other things is, when I own this property, it's on 2010. And then the first thing is I want to cut the front yard, probably about 20 trees. That's so ugly and dying. And I went to the department, for tree department, I asked him, did I need any permit to cut the big trees? And then the tree department say, I cannot cut that fine trees because that tree is it's planted on the city hall, on the city's property. That's the city's trees. I cannot cut. Only the tree is on my property. I don't need to have any of the permit to cut the tree. I can cut any size, any trees. That's on 2010, when I first have this land. Then I have no choice. Then I tell the department, I say, can you please allow me to cut this dying tree, like almost dying? Can you allow me to cut these trees? And I promise I will plant in the tree back. And then you can come to inspect. If I have no plant back, then you can ask me. So I guarantee, like I can sign and guarantee, you like me to cut these fine trees, I will plant him back. But they say, no, the tree is right on the city's property. I cannot cut. And finally, many years later, probably about 2017 or 2016, the tree is all died. It's underneath the power line. So I email the city. I say, this tree is all died. It's underneath the power line. So you guys need to come to remove. And they finally, really quick, they tell me, the tree is on your property. You don't need to let us know. You can cut whatever. You need to clean up yourself. That's your tree. It's not city's trees. Okay. And finally, until today, I cut that 11 trees. Then my guilty is I don't have the permit. Then I cut the tree first. But on the first letter from the city, I know we changed the rule. We changed the tree cutting rule by 2019. That's a city bylaw. But I'm sorry about it. I don't know that. Even the tree company tell me, say, your tree is oversized, you need to have the permit. I thinking that permit, I can cut the tree for my property. Okay? Then the first thing I'm coming, I ask them, say, I got a fine. They fine me 5,000 something. I tell them, I say, okay, I say, okay, if I don't have the permit, I cut the trees, I can pay the permit fee because you already let me to pay the higher, like a higher permit for each trees. But for the penalty, I say, can I replace tree back? They say no. I say, why? Let me to replace tree back. They said, my property have too many trees. We don't allow you to replace tree back. Only give us a fine. Only give me a fine. Then I say, okay, in these 10 years, in this property, I planted more than 200 trees on my property. I have a 70 raised cedar planting on left-hand side, on my right-hand side. Then I have a maple, I have a ginkgo, and that's all oversized trees. I have magnolia, I have pines on my right-hand side. Then I have my left-hand side, I have 110 yew, over 6 foot. Right now it's over 12 foot. Then I have a 10 maple on my left-hand side. And I have 2 pine on my left-hand side. I have a fruit trees. I have many where in my property is trees and the trees. I only have one driveway. I only have one driveway from my side of the house to the back. So many where have tree. I still have 200 cottonwood on my backyard. So I mean, I'm here, I asking for give me the excuse for without the permit cutting the trees. I like land, I like trees. So that's why I say, give me a chance. Don't give me this much of the fine for 49,000 for my fine. For my fine. And I have many of the trees. And you don't allow me to replace the tree in my property. Why you give me this much of the fine? And in these 10 years, I grow myself this much of the tree. So my guilty is I don't have the permit.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Lee, for
Yes.
coming and talking to us and for explaining your situation. And on our table today, we got an additional package of information.
Yes.
I'm thinking this is the same issue as the other people who have spoken to us may have, which is we need to refer this to staff for a report. Now, in the information you gave us today, it said you received a tree permit from the city. When did you get the permit and for how many trees? Was it for one tree or was it for more than one tree?
For that permit, they write down falling trees.
Fallen trees. Okay. So you thought it was for all the fallen trees?
I saw it's for all the, I saw that permit is for my tree, for the falling tree, for the danger trees. That's my thought. But this is my guilty because finally, from the first mail I saw, I know we have the change. We have a bylaw change on 2019.
Yeah. But but the permit, did that happen before 2019 or after 2019?
After 2019, that is on 2000. It's on this year, 2026 January.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the bylaw did change in
2019.
19?
Yeah.
I think it changed again this term as well.
Well,
But
so-
22, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
2022.
You know, the things here is like, why I'm here is because, okay, I buy the land on 2010.
Yeah.
The first time I already come to ask him. But the bylaw change, I don't know. Even right now, see, the first mail they give me, they tell me 2019, we
Okay.
have the city bylaw change.
Okay.
Okay. And the information here, the second mail they give to me is, the fine is from 2007, that by law. So the fine is they follow the 2000, okay. The fine they fine me is they follow by law, 2007. And our bylaw change is on 2019.
Okay.
And from right now, like you said, probably we have a bylaw change on 2022. Like, I'm the owner, I never received the information, and I'm working every day for my daily life. I'm not every day by city bylaw.
Yeah. That's fair point. Very
Well,
fair.
I believe for me, like I'm busy for my daily life. Even I'm home, it's already dark, like I say. That day, my husband, I don't know why my husband go to the backyard. Otherwise, it's already dark. We come home, like we working 9 to 5, and at the winter time, 5 o'clock, it's already dark. We never come to our backyard. And that day, I don't know why my husband go to the backyard. Maybe he's lucky.
Okay, well, I just wanted you to know that I do think that council should be asking staff to look into this and give us a report back. So thank you for your time today explaining it.
Yeah, is any of the questions?
Yeah, so how I understand your story is that the first tree fell over from the roots, and was there more than one tree that did that? Or
Sorry again?
was there more than one tree that fell over from the roots?
I believe that is one bigger one,
Okay.
only one bigger one.
And then you were concerned because there was no one could cut down the other trees, but were you worried that the other trees were also going to fall over? So you were
My concern, yeah.
you're
my
concerned
concern,
about more dangerous trees falling on your property or falling on yourself when you're gardening or whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted
Well,
to find out.
I have, because on my file, you also can see, even without the permit, they still
Yeah.
have the rotten one, like the roots is already
Yeah.
rotten. Like even, the one funny story in here too. Like I'm keep waiting until June, until I'm no patient at all. I renting the machine to cut the trees. The one CT of the bylaw from the tree department, the gentleman tell me, he tell me, I come to city apply the permit to cut the die trees. I say, me? On June? He said, yes. Because he come on Monday, and then he said they receive someone to come to try to apply the permit
Yeah.
for my house lumber. And I said, who applied that? He said, me, my name, my legal name. And he said the other two people on the file too, on the apply file too.
Okay.
I tell the gentleman, I say, excuse me, this land is only me and my husband is title on that. And we both is Asian.
Yeah.
We both, our legal name, the whole street, nobody know my legal name. The whole street, nobody know my husband's legal name. Who can use my name to apply my things?
Right. Okay.
And that's why he come to my home on Monday. And then I tell him,
Yep.
I say, see, take a look. I cut it without the permit. It's my guilty. But see, this is already rotten.
Right. Yeah.
He said, no, you cut it, you cut it. You have no permit, you cut it, you cut it. And even have one is I pick up from somebody's garden for the palm trees. I try to save the trees because I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think you told your story, and I think I agree that maybe we can get some more clarity on that. So did you physically use a what do you call those things? Thank you. A chainsaw yourself?
Yeah, the chainsaw.
Wow. Okay.
No,
You're
my
quite a
husband,
lady.
not me, my husband.
Oh, okay. 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 I'll just I'll leave it for the rest of council to
Yeah.
deliver. Yeah.
So it's any issues?
All right, don't have any more questions from council. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep,
Yeah.
thank you. Fourth delegation is Lena Aziz from the Lower Fraser Floodplains Coalition. Great, thank you for coming here today. in
Hi
5
there.
minutes. And it's great to get your
do I-
presentation in advance as well. So that, but if you want
Yes.
to bring it up, please go ahead.
That's just me here. Cool. Oh. All right. Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Lena Aziz. I'm the Habitat Programs Director at Watershed Watch Salmon Society. We're a salmon conservation charity based in Port Coquitlam, and our work goes where the salmon goes, so we're province-wide. Many years ago, I actually started my career at the Langley Environmental Partner Society, so I have a lot of fond memories of walking the creeks of the Township of Langley. So today I'm speaking as a member of the Lower Fraser Floodplains Coalition. The coalition is a group of organizations, experts, and advocates working toward integrated, fish-friendly, and climate-resilient floodplain management across the Lower Mainland. Our vision is simple, that the people and the non-human relatives of the Lower Mainland are healthy, safe, and resilient to flooding. I'm here with a request that the Township of Langley join other communities in becoming a signatory to the Regional Joint Statement on Action for Floodplain Resilience in the Lower Mainland. All right. We actually came together in October 2021, just a few weeks before the November 21 floods and atmospheric river that I'm sure many of us remember. But we started gathering as a region in 2022. We've been convening local government and First Nation leaders and experts from across the region to build the relationships, the knowledge foundation, and momentum needed to ready our region for flood resilience. Over the 7 dialogues that we have hosted, themes around coordinated regional action, sustained funding sources, and advocacy to the feds in the province keep coming to the surface. And those 7 dialogues are represented by our 7 reports that you see there. Something else that has emerged from the regional discussion is that it's time for multi-benefit flood management in the region. We are stuck with an approach to flood control infrastructure that was developed rather hastily in 1948-49, and that, combined with provincial downloading of flood management to local governments, leaves us confined to piecemeal approaches. But it doesn't have to be this way. Unfortunately, despite the goodwill demonstrated within our region and the good ideas that are out there, we must acknowledge that we are in a crisis situation. Flood risks are escalating. In the Lower Mainland alone, we have lived through major events in 21, 24, and 25. Aging infrastructure, development on floodplains, and a changing climate are all converging. I also want to note that the BC Flood Strategy was released back in 2024, but it has $0 towards implementation. So that's something that we are advocating for as well. The flood resilience is not simply discretionary spending. It is prudent financial management. Every time we kick the can down the road, we are gambling with the lives, the homes, food security, infrastructure, and ecosystems of the Lower Mainland. In fact, a single major flood in the region could wipe out over $350 billion in economic value. The Close to Home report by the Canadian Climate Institute makes clear that BC will be the province hit hardest by escalating flood and wildfire-related disaster costs, and yet we continue to build in high-risk zones, locking in future losses. Of note, there has been no significant federal or provincial investments in flood safety in our region since the Fraser River Flood Control Program ended in 1995. It ran for 20 years, 1975 to 95. Okay, but there are opportunities ahead of us. The federal government has a clear interest in a resilient Lower Fraser, as mentioned in recent announcements. It's an opportunity to channel investments that deliver regional solutions that work with nature and the economy. It's worth noting that the $150 to $164-ish million awarded through DMAF, the Disaster Mitigation DMAP, no, I forget what it stands for, Adaptation Fund, has been scattered amongst individual projects without any coordinated regional program in place. And that is why it keeps our region, it doesn't make our region flood resilient. A real investment program means sequencing the right tools in the right order, build local capacity, fund applied research, create jobs, and prioritize the most vulnerable communities and areas of our region first. The Fraser River Flood Control Program was that kind of program. It was a model. So that brings me to why I'm here today, the joint statement. The aim is to express a unified regional voice across local governments and First Nations and support advocacy to federal and provincial governments for stable long-term investments in flood resilience that protects people, communities, and ecosystems from flood risk. It is an opportunity for the city as leaders to send a clear message to Ottawa and Victoria, letting them know that we are ready to work together as a region to build flood resilience for our communities. We know what we need, and federal and provincial governments must step up to protect this region of national significance with a program that reflects the magnitude of the task at hand. So the calls on the joint statement are for a dedicated long-term resilience program for the region, stable committed funding, not piecemeal, not project by project, regional coordination, investment in critical infrastructure, and the use of the full flood risk reduction toolbox, and capacity to support local governments and First Nations leadership. So on March 29th, we took this ask to Metro Vancouver's Board of Directors, where they endorsed the joint statement. It was encouraging to hear the board members of the board speak to the importance in the region of calling for the federal and provincial governments to step up and sustain floodplain resilience. Since then, we have also presented to the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District, and they've given us their endorsement. The City of Port Coquitlam and the City of Delta as well. As you can see here, just last week I presented to Coquitlam, Maple Ridge, and didn't present to Vancouver, but they did via email say they'd be sending us a letter of support. So we're awaiting endorsement from those three municipalities. We are also presenting later this month to Metro Vancouver Regional District, and as you can see, there's a list of some of the other communities we're presenting to, taking delegations forward. All right. Ooh. So I can start to summarize here. We are calling on the provincial and federal governments to recognize that collaboration, not competition, for piecemeal funding is the foundation for resilience in the region, and that enabling First Nations and local governments to work together to meet responsibilities to the communities that flow from title and rights and jurisdiction is part of their foundation. And we call on them to develop a sustained long-term investment program for the Lower Fraser adequate to support collaborative work across federal, provincial, and local governments, First Nations, and the private sector to achieve regional floodplain resilience that works with nature, not against us. We've seen time and again that no community can do this alone, and so we hope that you join us in this cause. Thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you, Nina, for coming. Well, it's nice to know that you worked with LEPS for a while and see a person moving forward. I have met you before, and I've also, I think in the picture, I think there's myself and Councillor Bailey were at one of your presentations with Lower Mainland floodplain resilience. And I did want to say to you, Mr. Mayor, I do have a motion later on when the time comes. The joint statement you just read, is that the correct wording in case we'd have a motion from council? The one you just put on your screen, I think it's, can you go back to it, or can the staff go back to it?
This one?
Is this the joint statement?
Well, it's a summary of what we're asking for in
Okay.
the joint statement.
So
You
what
should
we
have
would-
received a package with the joint statement.
I've got a package here,
Yes,
right here,
okay.
and I can look for the staff to look at it to get the exact wording. You went to Metro Vancouver and you got their support, and you've been to a number of other communities, and you're going around. I know certainly flooding in the area, in the province, certainly since our atmospheric river was very, very, challenging for the community. And I know that Abbotsford and others have been asking for money. I think working with ourselves and the Indigenous Relations Committee and also your bands and other people as well, that's important to move forward. So, Mr. Mayor, I do have something when you've had other speakers as well. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. In one of your slides, it mentions the state of Washington and the Netherlands examples demonstrate the effectiveness and cost effectiveness of hybrid regional scale approaches that combine planning, infrastructure, and ecosystem restoration. Have you had conversations with the state of Washington, especially, and are they willing to come to the table? Because isn't it the Nooksack that I've heard that they don't really want to do anything about that portion, and it's really Abbotsford's problem, but maybe I got that wrong.
It's moving. There's a lot of things happening. Actually, there's a, what do you call them? A program, I guess, a program of funding in Washington State called Floodplains by Design. And our work through the Lower Fraser Floodplains Coalition is loosely based on that. They've actually been mentors supporting us. They have an excellent program in Washington State where they get this immense amount of funding in the multi-million dollar budgets from the province and a little bit from the state and a little bit from the federal government as well, that then they can use to support, I guess they call them counties at the county level in Washington State. Our coalition has not directly been in conversation with people in Whatcom County about what's going on there. So no, I couldn't say we have been doing it, but I understand that the intergovernmental, like there are conversations going on. I was at the Abbotsford, so the Sumas River watershed, they have a massive plan they've been working on the last few years, and I was at their open house a couple of weeks ago, and people had come up from Whatcom County to learn what Abbotsford and the province were planning to are planning to do. They wanted to see what the plans were.
Okay.
And during those conversations, I learned that they're actually planning in Whatcom County to expand some pressure points along their river over there so that water wouldn't be diverted almost immediately across the border. So I
Right.
know there's some work happening. I know
Okay.
there's conversation going on.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so I've attended a few of your presentations and also at Metro dealing with this. And I really worry that you don't mention specifically negotiations with Whatcom County and the state of Washington, because that, every time we discuss this subject, it comes up that the Nooksack has not been controlled, and there is no ongoing discussions about that kind of stuff. And without dealing with the Nooksack, especially the upper Fraser Valley there is very vulnerable, and you won't be able to stop it. So why have you not mentioned specifically in this statement dealing with either the Whatcom County or the state of Washington? Because time after time, I'm hearing that without them improving the situation on the Nooksack, we are still vulnerable.
A couple of different reasons. So the wording in the joint statement has come after multiple rounds of feedback and review from local government and First Nations leadership. And we have not been hearing that as something that's enough of a priority put into this joint statement. There is, as I mentioned earlier, the tripartite and don't know what it's called when it's four different groups of parties, working on the transboundary work already. So that's happening between the feds, the province, the First Nations in the Sumas area, as well as the cities of Abbotsford and Chilliwack. So those conversations are already happening. So we want to look at this as at a larger region. We're looking at this roughly from Hope to the Salish Sea up to as far as the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District. So our scope is different. And what we're asking for is directed to the province and the feds and less so to what's going on across the border. Those conversations are happening.
I would be a little more comfortable if you would, maybe even when you're talking about the federal government, say that, include that you would engage across the border at state, county, and federal governments, but
So I mean, that's a really valid point, and I think I can take that back to my colleagues and see what we can do. But if we're making any changes to the statement now, it means going back to MVRD, it means going back to seek endorsement again from everybody else. I'll have to understand what that looks like moving forward.
thank you very
Yeah,
much.
Thank you.
Hey, are you familiar with the 2023 study from UBC on, I think it was clear cutting? Like the tremendous runoff that is from clear cutting because the logging industry, I guess, they're not planting enough trees or.
Yeah, from Professor Eunice Alila at
I
UBC.
believe so. It's been a minute since I
Yeah, I
read
think he
it.
studied the watershed up in yes.
Yeah, some of the rivers
Yeah.
are in high rainy seasons, you go up by 38% up to 50% increase in water flow.
Yes, we're aware that everything that happens downstream is impacted by what goes on upstream. So definitely when we have flooding and if we're having, our upper watersheds are clear cut, we know, we understand that that's going to make a huge impact in the Low Fraser. What we're asking for is how do we make our communities resilient to all of that? So we know that there are already provincial logging conversations happening. We understand that. We're looking at, like, if you look at the Chilliwack, the upper watch, the Chilliwack, there's a lot of disruption up there that's now impacting the, like, downstream. So how do we make sure that our downstream communities are working together and putting in the right kind of infrastructure to make sure we can bounce back quicker and build back better after these massive.
Yeah, well,
There's
after
massive floods.
living through it,
Yeah.
with our Abbotsford location, going through the flood and everything was pretty much lost. It seems like every time there's a election cycle, every level seems to be beating a drum, saying, yeah, we gotta do something. But then when it actually time to man up and fork out some money for new pump stations or dredging or what have you, they fall short and they disappear essentially. So I would like to see something happen, and talks with our neighboring US neighbors here would be a big help, because that was one of the main reasons why the dikes burst, is the flow back from our US neighbors.
I live in the city of Port Coquitlam, and in the 21 atmospheric river, we lost a couple of people not because of what happened in Sumas, but because we had incredibly high water levels that the Coquitlam River kind of overflowed and people got washed away. So, sorry, not 21, in 2024. So yes, what you're talking about in terms of the transboundary is important, but we also have in our local communities areas that are impacted by massive floods, be it like overland flooding or rivers overflowing their banks that are putting all of us at risk. We've continued to develop and build in a way into the floodplain, so much so that now we're kind of locked in and we need to figure out how to unwind that a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, one last question before I go to, Linnea. You've got two requests here. The first one is to call on both the federal and provincial governments both times. One starts off to develop a sustained long-term investment program, and the other one starts off with recognize the Lower Fraser's resilience as a matter. Those are two separate requests.
Sorry, I recognize the collaboration, not competition. Is this what you mean, this one?
You-
Oh, you, sorry.
That's the one. It's a short one. There's the other one's quite long. The short one, I can develop the short one. Yeah, okay, I can do the short one as well. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. Well, yes, we're calling on the local governments. Again, I'm just summarizing the largest statement. I don't have the entire statement in the
Okay,
joint
well, I
statement
can
in the
certainly do the
presentation.
shorter one. We can work
Okay,
on
yeah.
that with the staff.
Yeah. Oh, here it is.
That's right.
Yes, sorry. I should have just kept clicking.
That's the one you're
That is
wanting?
the one, yeah.
That is the one. Well, maybe if you may, maybe we can leave this up through the clerk, and if we get to a motion, Mr. Mayor, that would work?
There's no other speakers, so.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no other speakers. Sounds like Councilor Ferguson wants to get this done for you. So I really appreciate the delegation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Councilor Ferguson, just over to you. Go ahead.
I would so move, Mr. Mayor, that this particular item being approved by staff and supported by staff and council.
Is there a second to that? Seconded by Councilor Pratt. Do you wish to speak to it?
Self-explanatory, she spoke along. Excellent presentation.
Councilor Richard?
Yeah, I'm going to support this motion because I sat on the very first flood resilience committee created by Metro. And one of the things that came very clear to us during that first committee's tenure was the need to pull all the partners in the lower mainland of BC together in order that we could lobby collectively both Ottawa and Victoria. And it's Ottawa and Victoria who need to start going and talking south of the border. So I'm very much in support of this. I think we should sign on. We need the coalition in order to make the political dialogues at higher levels of government happen. So thank you for your delegation.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you very much for the delegation. I live in an apartment that's a few dozen meters from the Nickel River, and in both atmospheric rivers, the parkade completely flooded. So this being a significant issue, anything that our municipality can do to help, and obviously it's a long road ahead. It's going to be a lot of work, but really pleased to second this motion from Councillor Ferguson. And again, thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, I'm going to support this motion. That the one thing that I want to see if we can make sure that keeps coming up more and more is when you're dealing with floods, you also have to mention the issue of problems dealing with dredging. Because as the floods get greater, as we know in just off McMillan Island, we have buildup of the silt that is coming as a result of those floods. So I really believe that when we're dealing with flood resiliency, we also have to stay on dredging, as does Steveston, as does Maple Ridge, and as do other communities. And we're feeling the very severe effects of what these floods are doing to our interior waterways, right down to affecting the indigenous folks on McMillan Island can't even park their boats anymore.
No, I agree as well, and I thank you for advocating for, this, because we need to make sure that Whatcom County comes to the table. And if our federal and provincial, representatives can help make that happen, then that's going to make a really big difference. So yeah, I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
All right, seeing no discussion, I'll call the question on approval of item requested by C4. That carries unanimously. Councillor Richter, I believe you had a couple of motions.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and if it's okay, I'd like to move all three of the previous delegations, C1, C2, C1, C2, and C3. You want to do each one individually? Okay, I'd like to start with the first delegation, C1, by Ms. Battistel, with regards to truck parking. I think a lot of comments were made through the questions, or a lot of good information was revealed in both the delegation as well as the questions from council. So I'd like to refer that to staff for a report. And I'm wondering, under the procedure bylaw, if I can request that we get a report back on that from staff for the July 29th meeting, simply because that's the last scheduled meeting for this particular council term.
I'll second that, Mr. Cooner, do you have any challenges with that timeline for this one?
To your
Lay
worship,
out some options for council, maybe.
yes. So it depends on the complexity and the depth of the report and the ability for the departments to concur. Just on a preliminary review of it, it would require not only community planning and policy, but bylaw enforcement as well, and potentially engineering. With other competing priorities, to be frank, it may not be achievable to have a in-depth report with respect to truck parking, a bylaw review, looking at the City of Surrey strategy and seeing what strategy might be applicable to the Township of Langley.
Councillor Richter, go ahead.
Okay, so if we don't put a timeline on it, it won't be this council that deals with it. It won't be coming back to a council to deal with until after, what's the inaugural date, November 2nd of this year?
That is correct.
Okay, well, some of those will have to carry over, like a review of the bylaw and an update of the bylaw and the creation of a task force. But I think the immediate concern in that particular neighborhood could be undertaken by staff, at least on a preliminary basis, for the next meeting. Is it possible to work that into the wording of the motion?
Mr. Cooner, what I might suggest is best efforts. If you could lay out, I guess, some options for council to endorse to come back in November, and maybe potentially one of them is to get an update on the item referred to in regards to bylaw enforcement. But again, the deadline would be Friday and concurrence challenges. So I understand the issues and what would be achievable by the next meeting.
To your worship, we could potentially do either a report or a high-level memo just to kind of outline the current status and potential options that staff may be able to explore, and provide more in-depth analysis and review later on in the year.
Okay.
All right, Councilor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. By my recollection, I believe it was April of 2024 that council passed a motion exploring the potential addition for more truck parking across the township, and there were 3 items in that motion. One was to increase the quantity of truck parking on non-ALR lands. One was to do a review of the City of Surrey's parking strategy and if there were any applicable policies or bylaws that might be applied in the township. And then the third one was what ended up being the Gloucester commercial truck pilot project, which we endorsed in, I believe, June or December of that year. I can't remember which one. So potentially at the end of this term in July, could we maybe have a item for information detailing what staff looked at there and whether or not, because I know there was a letter that was intended to be sent to the ministry as well, asking for greater enforcement and things like that. Can we maybe potentially get an update on that as part of this?
To your worship, to Council Pratt, I believe that was the intent of my previous answer, was to provide a status update on what's been done to date and what potential options there would be available to council.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Point of clarification here. Is there a seconder to my motion to, I guess it's going to read now, defer the delegation C1 to staff for a preliminary report
Yeah, I seconded it.
by July 2nd, okay, or by July 29th.
Yeah,
27th,
seconded.
sorry.
All right. So with that, I'll call the question on referral of C1. That carries unanimously. Councilor Richter, C2.
Yes, I'd like to refer item C2, the delegation by Mr. Baines, to staff for a clarification report. I guess I'd have to ask staff if they'd be able to go back and clarify the bylaw or the motion of council that was cited in the materials provided to council dating back to 2019. Is that feasible to get it done for the next meeting?
To your worship, to Councilor Richter, with respect to this specific item, staff would be of the position that it be referred to staff for an item for information, and I believe staff would be able to provide the minutes and the restrictive covenant that was discussed to council by the next meeting.
Okay, then that's the, am I allowed to make?
Yeah, move that.
Yeah, okay, that's the motion I'll
Does
make
anybody
then.
wish to second that? Yeah, seconded by Councilor Kunst. Yeah, go ahead. Anything else, Councilor Richter, on that?
No, I think we covered it, but I think the big thing is that bylaw still, or is that motion of council still in effect? And does it attach to the property or to the owner? Being Mr. Baines, it's clear to me, felt that it was only him that could do that. I'm looking to see, well, if it's with the property, I should still be able to sell the property, and the property owner should, the next property owner should still be able to function under whatever the resolution was that was passed back in 2019.
Councilor Bailey?
Yeah, some points that come up on this one is, one, a restrictive covenant runs with the title. It doesn't run with the person. Believe it or not, that is my training with real estate appraisal. And by changing this restrictive covenant that is on the property title, what you're going to do is you're going to significantly change the value of this property. This property was bought with this restrictive covenant on it, and by removing it, you will very significantly improve the value of the property. So I have some concerns on this with that. There is no reason a person cannot buy this property with the restrictive covenant still on it, and it would be similar as to how the presenter purchased the property. So I think this has to really be taken into account, that changing this restrictive covenant will very significantly increase the value of this property.
Councillor Whitmarsh?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Certainly I'll be supporting the motion to get a clarifying report, but I think there is, some other challenge to this that would be helpful to know, and maybe that can't be provided in the next 4 days in a report from staff, but, we have a resident who owns a property owner who owns a piece of property in Brookswood, has had it for 10 years and is really unable to sell it, or very difficult to sell it. His understanding was he could build a home, things changed after he bought it. Now it's difficult to sell. And so the clarification is really helpful and important, but the challenge still remains. And we had, as a council, had agreed many years ago that we would not move forward with an NCP for the Glenwood area. And so now it could be, as was stated, maybe 10 or 15 years, who knows? And so it would be nice for us to be able to work with the property owner to try and find a helpful solution that both fits for what fits the requirements that council has for the property, but also helps the property owner to navigate this challenge of a piece of property that he's unable to sell or difficult to sell. So certainly I'll support a clarifying report, but I think there's more to it in a way that we as a council can be helpful and try and work with the property owner to try and resolve something that might be a 15-year problem. Maybe we can help them.
Councillor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to ask a clarification to staff on the timing of when the Glenwood plan was phased or kind of held in a position where we weren't finalizing the plan compared to the Boothrin and Fernridge neighborhood. Because in my recollection, when we started this term, we were undergoing another process for the Brookswood Fernridge OCP, which included all 4 NPs. And then we finalized in 2024, I believe, 3 of the 4, but not Glenwood. Is that correct? In 2024?
To Your Worship, Councillor Pratt, I believe specific direction was given in 2023 to update the neighborhood plan specifically for Booth, Fernridge, and Rynn. And pursuant to those direction, I believe we did receive, I believe in 2024, final adoption of those neighborhood plan. There was never specific council direction to update the Glenwood neighborhood plan. However, obviously the community plan in the OCP was updated for the Brookswood area.
Right, so the Brookswood OCP as a whole contained land use designations for the whole area at a high level, but there was no subsequent land use designations at the NP level for Glenwood. Is that correct?
That's correct. So at a OCP level and a community plan level, the land uses were updated specifically for Glenwood. However, at a neighborhood planning level, they were not updated, nor was direction given by council to update those neighborhood plan.
Thank you.
Councillor Ferguson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not really certain how this is going to be helpful, this motion. When a resident comes before us and asks for some challenges, and we as a council look at that, and that's what I believe the council of the day did a number of years ago. And usually when we ask a citizen to do some things, they immediately go through it, whether it's to put in a septic tank, whether it's to drill a well, whether it's provide and improve their property so they can indeed build a house, because you can't even build a house without those particular items done. I don't know what happened over that 7-year period, but had the applicant under duress, and they explained that at the time, proceeded, then perhaps that person wouldn't be here today. So I'm not sure what's different or new or what we could provide in the future, but I guess I would be disappointed that the resident didn't proceed accordingly. Thank you.
Seeing no discussion, I'll call the question on the referral of C2. That's defeated. Councillor Bailey, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Pratt, Councillor Rent, Mayor Woodward opposed. Councillor Richter, you had, no, I think that was it. Did you want to do C3 as well, Councillor Richter? Yeah, all right.
C3
Go ahead.
too. I'd like to refer item C3 to staff for a report. And yes, I mean, it's clear there was a permit issued, and the question becomes how many trees were covered and the understanding. So it's going to require some time for staff, I think, to meet with the resident in question who did the delegation and her husband and figure it out and then bring a report back to council at that point. I'm not sure we can have, with the timelines involved, that we can have a report back, but if we could have even an information item, that would be sufficient.
Any other discussion on referral of C3? Seeing none, call the question on that referral. That carries. Councillor Bailey opposed. All right, we'll move on to item, reports for council. Item E1 is back on the floor, 16th Avenue corridor intersection study, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on E1? Seeing none, I'm going to move deferral for one more meeting to July 27th, seconded by Councillor Rint. Any questions or discussion on referral? Councillor Richter?
Why are we deferring for one more meeting? It's the last meeting of council, the next meeting of this
Yeah, I haven't
term.
had a chance to meet with staff on it yet. Scheduling issues. All right, so seeing other discussion, I'll call the question on that deferral. That carries. Councillor Richter, Councillor Whitmarsh opposed. Item E2, also deferred, back on the floor, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on E2? Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yes, I had questions with regards to, it mentions in here to be funded through the unused 2026 budget for social sustainability strategy. I'm wondering, my question is, what is the budget that's unused and carried forward? And is it unused because we completed the work at less of a cost than we initially expected? Or is it that we have not yet completed the work in this budget year and we'll be moving forward later with need for more money in 2027 for social sustainability strategy? It's a question through your worship to staff.
Through your worship to Councillor Whitmarsh, we do already have an existing fund established, which you mentioned is a social sustainability strategy. There's approximately, I believe, $50,000 remaining in the fund, and some of the work is still outstanding, and therefore we are requesting council to carry forward that fund.
So in future years, will we have other money for social sustainability? Is that a replenished annual budget item for social sustainability strategy?
Your worship to Council Whitmarsh, the purpose of the fund would probably be used for training and services. Moving forward, we would obviously strategically pursue and leverage any external funding and grants and incentive from other levels of government. As we are aware, there's several opportunities and avenues available for accessibility goals. So we would be pursuing a lot of grant funding as well for this.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate those questions, but I think, I think I'm satisfied with those answers. So I think, seeing no discussion on E2, seeing none, call the question on E2. That carries unanimously. Item E3, Highway 13 potential pedestrian improvements. I'll move the recommendation. Is there a second or seconded by Councillor Rint? Is there any discussion on E3? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move referral back to staff to consult with the Ministry of Transportation on their position on the proposed detailed design, proposed conceptual design, seconded by Councillor Pratt. So any discussion on that referral? Nope, seeing none, call the question on the referral of E3. That carries. Councillor Richter opposed. Item E4, Transportation and Mobility Strategy. I'll move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any questions or discussion on E4? Councillor Pratt.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. It's a pretty extensive document, and I just want to thank staff for all the time and effort that went into making it. I did notice there's a slight inconsistency in map 1 to 2 in regards to the BRT corridor, and I would just have a referral motion once this is all dealt with, if there's no other speakers.
No other speakers, go ahead.
So I would make a referral back to staff to have alignment between the map 1 and map 2, showing not potential stations, but only the stations that were shown in the TransLink public engagement process.
All right, I'll second that. Yep. Any discussion?
That's it.
All right. Any other discussion on that? Seeing none, call the question on that referral of E4. That carries. Councillor Richter opposed. E5, New Horizons for Seniors Program Grant Application. Moved by Councillor Rint, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Any discussion on E5? Councillor Whitmarsh.
Yes, thank you. I just was wondering, a question through your worship to staff. In the report, it talks about this 12, what the Seniors Come Together project is. Talks about it being a 12-month project in there. And in that same paragraph on the, I think it's really the first page, second paragraph, first page, it says that this initiative will create a seniors community hub where participants can access recreation opportunities, community meals, educational workshops, social activities, and community outings. I'm wondering what is meant by a seniors community hub, and how that's linked to the cost. It obviously, we're not getting a hub like this for $50,000. So is this like an online hub where seniors can have access to services provided and get online connection to those services? Or is this an actual, meant to be a physical space where participants recreate, have community meals and so on? I'm trying to understand what that's really meant by that paragraph.
To your worship, to Councillor Whitmarsh, the overall purpose of this report is to apply for a grant and to create a program. And the intent is essentially that staff are looking at a pilot program that will create, that will assist seniors. And where we're looking at creating it as initially is at the Walnut Grove Community Center. So we would create a program where they can have access to some of the recreation opportunities there, community meals, educational workshops. So it wouldn't be an online, it would be in person. And it'd be specifically at Walnut Grove to start off with as a pilot program. And then as we review it, and if we are successful with the grant and looking forward, then we would look at expanding potentially this program.
So the $50,000 is to run the program or to look into whether we can do a program?
To your worship, to Councillor Whitmarsh, what we're estimating is $44,000 to cover the project cost. So for all components of that, that would be the educational workshops, social activities, community meals, and et cetera.
Okay, that seems a very good deal. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My question was similar, but just adding to that, do we already have programs like this running through the township? Anything similar, or is this the first of its kind?
To your worship, to Councillor Martins, not to this extent. There's some that are available, but not to the extent that this is proposing and specifically oriented towards seniors.
Okay, and this is an initiative of staff, or I'm trying to recall if this was something that came through council that I might have missed.
To your worship, to Councillor Martins, I believe this grant application was available, and staff proposing to just apply for this grant application, as this program would benefit overall some of the strategies and policies that we have existing.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the initiative. I'm surprised by the the cost factor is lower than I would expect, but that, I'm not going to complain about that. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad to see this at some of the tables that I attend. Increasingly, the issue of special social isolation and participation regarding seniors is becoming a greater concern all the time, especially the seniors actually older than myself, especially have problems dealing with online stuff and that. So anything that can increase the ability of seniors to participate in what's going on, it's greatly needed.
Councillor Whitmarsh?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, just another question. In the event that, that we're not successful in the grant application, is there still an intention to move forward, or does that put the program on hold?
To your worship, to Council Whitmarsh, if we're not successful in the grant application, we'll review it and see if we're able to still proceed with the program with the current operational budget. If not, we will then look at options of potentially including it in the budget process. With respect to the cost, there's also a lot of volunteers that we were seeking to support the project, hence why the cost is lower than anticipated. But in the event we're not successful, we'll look at some options to potentially still see if we're able to implement the pilot program.
Okay, great news. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I know that Mr. Jensen's left the room, but I'm not sure, Mr. Cooner, if you'll be able to answer this. I know that we are working on a questionnaire for the Langley seniors for the Township of Langley, and also working with the Langley Seniors Resources Center and other groups and organizations. And as Councillor Bailey's indicated, the social isolation, social participation, and meaningful opportunities for older adults is something that we in the township are working on already. This is something that we continue with, and I know it's important actually for the seniors committee and also for the staff involved to proceed with this, as it piggybacks on the study that we're already doing. Just no comments, Mr. Mayor.
All right, seeing no discussion, I'll move to the question on E5. Call the question. That carries unanimously. Item E6, just direct council's attention. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate paragraphs in the resolution. I'm going to move it amended without the last one, Ms. Power. Is that seconded? Seconded by Councillor Rick. Councillor Richter.
Okay, so you're just moving paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 then?
Yes, so let me see here. There is 4, so I moved it without the last one. So the
Without
first 3, that's
okay,
correct.
so
Thank you for that.
not moved. Yes, I have a question about this.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so we're applying for a cost-sharing application on Fraser Highway for 88.9 million. Is that correct? Or a cost share on 88.9 million?
That's your worship, to Councillor Richter. That's correct. We're applying for approximately 88 million of cost sharing for completion of Fraser Highway.
Okay. And we're lining up in the second paragraph that we have 55.92 million. Is that correct? So is that now 88.9 million less 55.2 million? So in other words, the difference, or 32.17 million, or is the whole cost of this going to be 88.9 million plus 55.92 million?
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, specifically what we're applying for is the completion of Fraser Highway from 23,400 block to about 26,400 block. The total cost of that project is 182.5 million. The application itself is for cost sharing, so the application was approximately 88 million. And then in the event we're successful for TransLink funding that's available, then the contribution from the township would be approximately 68 million.
Okay, so when the 88 million, like how much of this 88.9 million are we likely to get?
We would be applying for the entire 88.9 million. Likelihood of success is we are meeting some of the criterias in their application, Stream 2 and Stream 3, which is unlocking new opportunities in connectivity and then supporting regional growth. However, obviously, it's hard to determine whether there's a high chance or low chance of likelihood, but we think that there is some chance. But there obviously, we have to see how many applications there are, whether there's other, if the fund is oversubscribed, et cetera, et cetera. So we would be able to obviously report back to council as it's stated in the motion in the event we are successful.
All right, I've got nothing against applying for money. I think that's a great thing. What I'm concerned about is the third paragraph that said if we get a successful grant, that we get a report with financing options. So I specifically want to know, would more debt be part of those financing options?
To your worship, to council director, potentially.
And so the more debt, how much more debt, do we know?
To your worship, to council director, we wouldn't know at this time because we would see if we are successful, what years the projects would take, how many years it would take, and what years we would need the money. So we would provide those options to council, advise whether the DCCs covers it, whether we need to borrow, and whether the repayments are by DCC payments or other funding source. But we would review all those and bring it forward to council in the event we are successful with this grant application.
Okay, and I don't disagree with applying for the grant. I do disagree with taking on new debt. But what you're telling me is it's not going to be this council that's going to have to deal with paragraph 3. It's going to be the next council.
I believe more than likely it would be the next council, as the applications are due by July 31st, so we won't have an answer until it would be actually hard to
The next
determine.
council sworn in November. Okay, well, that's a flag for the next council. Watch the financing options. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just some questions, maybe some along the same lines, just trying to understand. When I read through the document, it talks about a contribution from the township of $68.25 million made up of various reserves and DCC funds. Is that correct?
To your worship, to Councillor Whitmarsh, what we're proposing as a funding source is all DCC reserves. That would be our proposal, but obviously we would have to know at the time what the DCC balances are, whether there's enough DCCs available to cover the project, or if we're going borrowing to cover the DCC payments, or if we need to look at other funding sources. But right now, we'd be looking only at DCC as a proposed funding source.
Right, okay, and only financing if they were short.
That's correct.
Okay. So what I was wondering is in here, it talks about that this fund that we would be applying to will contribute up to 50% of the project. So I'm trying to find where the gap is from there. We're asking for 88, we're going to contribute 68, so we're missing something to get to the total. So there's about a $24 million gap there. Is that projected TransLink funding, or what makes up that 24 million that we're missing?
To your worship, to Councillor Whitmarsh, that specifically TransLink funding would be applying for to cover that remaining shortfall.
Okay, and so we also don't know at this point whether or not we're going to get that. That's also something that we'll be applying for. Is that correct?
To your worship, to Councillor Whitmarsh, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no discussion, I'll call the question on E6 as amended. Carries unanimously. Bylaw. We'll do a couple more and then we'll go to 3:30. Yeah, thanks, Councilor Richards. F1, do bylaws for first and second reading. Official Community Plan Amendment, rezoning application number 100324, bylaw number 6247, 6248. I'll move the recommendation. Is there a second or seconded by Councilor Rint? Yeah, Councilor Richter.
So this is for 211 seniors housing units, which I think is great. I'm disappointed to see we are going to be losing 20 significant trees. I guess I'd like a question of clarification on two things. Number one, does this fall under the new legislation that the provincial government's put in place? Or will we definitely be sending it to go to public hearing?
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, since the proponent is seeking a plan amendment, therefore it would be only for first and second reading, and we will have a public hearing scheduled at the next council meeting, which is July 27th.
Okay, and the second thing I'd like to ask about is I notice that there is a community amenity fee or a voluntary contribution or whatever we're calling it now, $1.346631. So that's roughly 3.5 million. Is it possible, and would the proponent possibly consider, instead of paying that money, to have some of those units available to the community at below market as their community contribution? Like, is that something we could ask? And I won't ask it today. If it's coming back for third, I'll raise it again then.
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, so currently we have the interim policy regarding community amenity contributions. Obviously, these are items that the developer proposes voluntarily and negotiated. And here, as indicated in the report, there's a financial contribution that is volunteered. In the event the proponent wants to volunteer a different amenity, staff would look at that and potentially review it and have discussions with the proponent. However, at this time, the only item that's been volunteered pursuant to the interim policy regarding community amenity contribution has been a financial component.
Financial. Okay, but these units, these 211 seniors units are basically at market, right? Or do we know? Yes.
To your worship, Councillor Richter, yes, they are.
Okay, so it would be a very valuable community contribution if they had a few units in there anyway that are below market. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I had similar questions about whether these were any affordable units in there. So that's fine with that. The second question I had was in the document on page 6. It talks about seniors housing not requiring visitor parking spaces. And I was wondering, how that works for when visitors want to visit seniors. Where do they park? How does that work?
Through your worship, to Councilor Whitmarsh. So with recent zoning bylaw updates, and there's a specificity item here in the zone. Our P1 zone, our institutional zone, do require the visitor parking, but as the proponent is requesting specifically seniors housing, that specific use doesn't have a visitor component assigned to it. So there's the difference there.
Okay, so on a practical level, when visitors come to visit seniors, and we want them to, we just talked about isolation, where do they park?
So your worship, there would be, as a component of that overall parking count, that could be allocated for visitor parking, your worship.
I see, okay. All right, and the last question, we were talking about amenity charges, and I saw that near the end of the document, it talks about the ACC bylaw as well as the interim policy together creating a total contribution of 2.375. So we are in this item charging ACCs and community amenity and the voluntary community amenity charge. Is that correct? We're doing both?
Your worship, to Councillor Whitmarsh, as indicated before, this was a plan amendment. The reason there's a plan amendment being sought is there's additional density being sought. With respect to the base density, the ACC bylaw is applicable, as this application was submitted once the ACC bylaw was adopted. And with respect to the bonus density, that's where there's the interim policy regarding community amenity contribution that would be applicable.
Yeah, okay, so that's helpful. I'm just, I guess, connected to this, but also other applications. Is the intent, I mean, ACCs don't have a bonus density clause in them, so is the intent that we would always need to have this interim community amenity charge in order to deal with any density bonus kind of situations? Or is it such that, you know, I know we just adopted the ACC, but we could down the road change the ACC to include some level of bonus density?
Your worship, to Councillor Whitmarsh, there's a separate bylaw that would be required with respect to density bonus bylaw, which staff are still reviewing and looking at the provincial best practices and guidelines, and then staff would be exploring that option and potentially bringing that bylaw forward. But at this time, the bylaw, we don't have a bylaw with respect to bonus density.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no other discussion, I'll call the question on F1. That carries unanimously. Let's take that break while we proceed to G1 till 3:35. Thank you. All right, we'll get back underway with bylaws for first, second, and third reading. Item G1, rezoning application number 100681, bylaw number 6231. This was deferred, so it's back on the floor. Does anybody wish to, any discussion or questions? Councilor Richter.
Yes, I notice in today's items distributed to council, there were 5 letters that came in concerning this application. I'm just wondering, if we pass this today, we can't include, or is there a way we could include that staff review the comments that have come in on these letters?
To your worship, to Councilor Richter, the rezoning application before you is seeking all 3 readings. In the event council wants staff to review the letters or provide further feedback, then either there's an option of deferring this further or a referral back to staff to review the specific submissions.
Okay, and if I made a referral like that so staff could review the submissions, could we get this application back on the July 27th meeting agenda, or would that be pushing it?
To your worship, to Councilor Richter, I believe some of the submissions you're referring to came over the weekend and as of this morning, so we'd have to review some of the submissions to see if they're quite technical in nature. There's a potential that we could be able to either summarize, if the direction is to summarize those submissions and provide a memo to council, and then council considers this application, or to address that, then that might trigger further revisions of the plan or further development prerequisites, so it would depend.
Okay. Is it possible for staff to put on items distributed or for information in the next package, if there's anything in these letters that should be considered prior to final, if we go ahead with first, second, and third today? I guess what I'm saying is, I just basically got them today. I've looked at them, but I haven't absorbed what they're saying. Some of them look like they're all saying the same thing, but does it materially affect the application? And I think that's a staff call.
To your worship, to Councilor Richter, that's correct. The issue would be faced with is if you grant all 3 readings, and if it's an item that council, it's a material item or item that might be a further development prerequisites, but you grant it 3 readings. The 3 readings include all the development prerequisites, so the proponent would be proceeding to final adoption with the development prerequisites that are in place. So that would either then council would have to potentially rescind that 3rd reading, add further conditions. So if the intent is to review the submissions or get further information, then staff's recommendation would be to refer it back to staff or defer the item and then have an item for information from staff just highlighting or reviewing some of the submissions.
Okay, my last question is, was it staff's intent to bring this forward for final at the July 27th meeting?
Through your worship, to Councilor Richter, we don't believe the development prerequisites would be satisfied by next meeting.
Okay.
There's still servicing agreements and several other items that need to be addressed prior to this proceeding to final adoption, which usually does take on a standard several months.
Okay, then Mr. Mayor, after everyone's had a chance to speak, I'd like to make a referral of this back to staff so they have time to review the contents that came in the letters from the public today and advise council via an information item with the intent that first, second, and third will come back at the July 27th meeting. I know that sounds very complicated.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just a question through yourself to staff in regard to the 215 Street portion that extends to the north end of the property. Is my understanding correct from looking at the proposal that 215th will not be finished and completed to the 46A Avenue cul-de-sac to its north? It will remain it will be finished up until the northern boundary of the subject property before us today, but then there will be a remainder, a catwalk between that finished portion of the road and then the cul-de-sac to the north. So this will not be a through road. It will still dead end with a catwalk connecting to the cul-de-sac to the north. Is that a correct understanding?
Your worship, to Councillor Pratt, that is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. A question to staff with regards to what we had in our distribution list today. I'm just seeing some kind of conflicting information between the communications we have received, and I would appreciate the staff to weigh in to clarify it. There's one communication that says that 4 units per lot would be permitted as per required provincial legislation. And then I believe it's a letter from the proponent that says, in my preamble to township staff, I made it very clear that I was registering a restrictive covenant on the titles to these lots, which would include a full set of building guidelines that would allow 1 single-family home per lot and 1 suite. So I'm just wondering if I could get clarification on which is correct?
To your worship, to Councillor Martin, so the application before you is a rezoning application and a development variance permit. The rezoning application is to rezone specifically this site to an R1E zone. And the R1E zone currently as it stands and the amended zone pursuant to the provincial or the update to the acts pursuant to the provincial direction allows up to 4 units due to the location of this and servicing, so that there is an automatic right to that. With respect to restrictive covenants, their development prerequisites, as I'm reviewing as we're speaking here, there's no specific restrictive covenant in the development prerequisites limiting or them volunteering less units or a specific amount of units for this zone or application.
Okay, so could the builder put a restrictive covenant restricting it to only 1 residence plus suite per lot? Or what does the provincial legislation override the opportunity for the builder to register that restrictive covenant?
To your worship, to Councillor Martins, if the proponent is proposing that, then we would look at potentially through the development prerequisite registering restrictive covenants, and I believe that has been done before. But it is, we would have to review that again, but that is a potential option that we can look at as a part of the development prerequisites.
Okay, so does this need to be referred back to staff in order to do that?
To your worship, to Council Martin, that's correct. Council can impose the condition, but we'd prefer dealing with the proponent and having the correct language in the restrictive covenant drafted prior to bringing it before council.
Okay, thank you. So that's it for my questions, but if I can make that referral, unless somebody else is doing that.
Yeah, no, I wanted to refer back to that that letter as well. And I believe it's the proponent, Mr. Cameron Gare, that in item 2, he outlines the project and the fact that he's lived there for 20 years, has a great relationship with the neighbors and the neighborhood, and wants to ensure that subdivision and the development respects the area in which he lives. So that's a big one for me. So anyway, and as it relates to the SMU, and I think we just talked about that a restrictive covenant on title, and that they would include that in the building guidelines, allowing for only 1 single family per lot and a suite. So if it's just for 2 weeks, I would be happy to support a referral, but otherwise I think for me that I would just vote in favor at this point. So
Yeah, so I went out and visited the site and had a extensive talk to the developer that is proposing this, and we talked about these things. And I notice in his letter to us in the distribution package, you know, he's been doing this for 40 years or plus, and he knows what he can and can't do, and he assured me that this will be for single-family units. Plus, one thing that I really like about this is the extensive spiel land that is in the back there and protecting a very significant stand of trees. So, you know, with this letter in mind that's in the distribution package, I'm ready to support this development.
Ferguson?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very familiar with this area, having lived there some 10 years or so ago, and have spoken to some of the neighbors, and also the person that purchased my house wrote a letter in support. I also am happy with the explanation from the proponent as to oppositional concerns, and I don't know if there's really a need for a deferral, so I'm supporting it. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, support this project. I think the restrictive covenant that's put in really protects the neighborhood and ensures that there'll be single-family homes. It could be something different, so this ensures that. I appreciate it, so I will actually be supporting it today.
Does anybody wish to move a motion? Please indicate that by hitting the speaker's button. Councilor Richter?
Yeah, I'd like to move, I guess it's I don't know, perhaps the clerk could help me out with this. Is it a referral to staff for an information report to come back to council so that first, second, and third can be given on July 27th? Or is it just a deferral to July 27th?
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, the language appropriate would be that the item be referred back to staff for staff to review the recent submissions and provide an item for information and the rezoning application, development variance application be brought back forward by July 27, 2026. Is that the intent?
That's the intent. So I like that wording. Thank you very much, Mr. Cooner. I'll move that referral motion.
Can I get that referral motion read back, please?
The item be referred back to staff to review the recent submissions with respect to the development application and provide an item for information, and that the rezoning application, development variance permit application be brought forward for the July 27, 2026 meeting.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Whitmarsh. Yep. Does anybody wish to speak to that referral? Okay, seeing none, call the question on that referral. That's defeated. Councillor Bailey, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Kearns, Councillor Martins, Councillor Pratt, Councillor Rent, Councillor Woodward opposed. Is there any other discussion on G1? Councillor Pratt?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I do note that one of the restrictive covenants that is already in this report that we're reading today restricts development until a development permit is issued for the site. And just, I want to confirm through yourself to staff, the development permit addresses form and character of whatever project, whatever homes are proposed on the site. At that time, if the form and character of the proposal that's associated with the development permit is for a small-scale multi-unit housing project, as opposed to a single-family project with a suite, council would have discretion or no discretion to reject the proposal.
Your worship, to Councillor Pratt, so development permits do deal with form, character, and sitting of the site, so rezonings deal with density. So therefore, if the they would have an automatic right pursuant to their zone if the zone's been adopted. And then if they are subject to SHMU, they'd be only subject to the SHMU DP guidelines if they're applicable. And therefore, the rights associated for the development, for the owner are a lot greater in a development permit situation than in a rezoning. So the options available and conditions being opposed in a development permit are very limited.
And I appreciate that the proponent's willing to enter into this restrictive covenant. Is there a reason why it wasn't included in this first, second, and third, or was it just a matter of the timing? Can it be, I'm just curious, if we approve it today with no restrictive covenant and the proponent comes forward in the next period of time before final and offers that restrictive covenant to be added as a condition of final, is that something that the proponent has the ability to do?
Well, council itself would be giving the bylaw readings for the rezoning, and council has unfettered discretion, so therefore all the development prerequisites are attached here. If after you grant 3 readings and you want to change the development prerequisites, then it would have to come back to council. We would recommend essentially, if they are volunteering, that it would be done now. But my understanding, and I may be wrong in this, is I believe after the submissions is when it was volunteered or proposed that they are open to this option.
Understood. Thank you.
Is there any other deferrals or referrals? All right, so I just have one question, I think maybe two. Mr. Cooner, if this is approved and goes to final with the variance permit application, and the subdivision is created with the restrictive covenants that are being contemplated theoretically, and then these lots are sold to new owners, are those restrictive covenants enforceable, given provincial legislation?
We'd have to review it with legal, but there's risk, and there's potential of it being ultra vires, so it's very limited options potentially available to the municipality if they were to be challenged potentially.
So that's lawyer for no, which I appreciate. That no life is not certain, but that's lawyer for no. So with that, I'll call the question on G1. That carries. Councillor Rint, Mayor Woodward opposed. G2, rezoning application number 100790, bylaw number 6246. I'm just going to move the recommendation under G2 without condition 1, seconded by Councillor Rint. Ms. Bauer, do you have that? Just want to get a nod from Ms. Bauer that she has it moved as amended. All right, great. So is there any seconder to that? I think that was seconded by Councillor Rint. Yeah, any discussion on that? Councillor Richter.
This is G2, so I'm sorry I didn't get it marked down quick enough on my notes here. So we're moving the first paragraph. Yeah, what have we deleted here?
Your worship, to Councillor Richter, the rezoning application before Council G2 has been moved without the first development prerequisite.
The one about the schools?
That's correct. The development prerequisite number 1 is that in accordance with the Smith Neighborhood Plan as amended, that they secure a joint elementary neighborhood park site, including road dedications, construction of all associated works. As you may recall, there was a previous application in the Smith East Plan where council gave specific direction to amend the Smith Neighborhood Plan bylaw to say that the joint elementary school and neighborhood parkland site has been secured. Staff have processed that, but however, it is linked to a development application that has not received final adoption yet, so that's still in the progress. And from staff's perspective, the joint elementary school and neighborhood park site has been secured, but it's a matter of now getting that bylaw to final adoption and then no longer including this requirement in any of the future development prerequisites for the Smith East Neighborhood Plan.
Okay, so this is approximately 10 acres of township-owned land, which means it's publicly owned land. A public hearing doesn't have to be held on this, or can we require it because it's publicly owned land?
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, there's no exemptions in the community charter with respect to the ownership of a specific parcel because it's plan compliant and it's for residential residential density. Therefore, council must not send it for a public hearing or public input opportunity.
And this is under that provincial legislation that came through on housing?
Your worship, to Councillor Richter, that is correct.
Okay. The other thing is, on page 6, it says that the proponent has only applied to rezone the lands and has not submitted a development permit application detailing potential tree retention opportunities. So when I look at the picture on page 6, seems to me 3/4 of the lots or 3/4 of the area is treed. So why is there no tree report here? Like, do we have any kind of an idea how many trees are going to be lost?
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, this is specifically focused just on the rezoning and just the zone of the land. The specific details and form, character, and sitting in a specific townhouse site plan or an apartment site plan will be addressed during the development permit stage. The development permit would be before council, and council would approve the development permit. And during that time, there would be a tree management plan and specific details as well.
Yeah, but the rezoning's done, so we can't require it. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, any other discussion under G2? Seeing none, one question on G2. That carries. Councillor Richter opposed. Item G3, rezoning application number 100711, bylaw number 6232. Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any questions or discussion on G3? Councillor Pratt.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to note that included in this application is a 133-room hotel, which I think in that proximity to the Langley Event Center and knowing just how much the current shortage exists out there, I think this is a great addition to the neighborhood and a great spot for it.
Councillor Richter?
Yes, I had a question about the terminology on page 2. Under executive summary, the third paragraph there, it said the application is eligible to proceed under the superseded version of the Willoughby Community Plan. What is the exact intent and meaning of that?
Dear Worship, to Councillor Richter, I'm just, that was in the executive summary.
Yes, it was. Third paragraph down.
Yes, dear Worship, to Councillor Richter, as you may recall, we updated the neighborhood plans for the Willoughby area. The Willoughby Transit Corridor Plan was adopted. There's in-stream protection with respect to applications that proceeded or were submitted and were proceeding prior to the plan adoption. Therefore, specifically with this application, the application was submitted and is eligible to proceed under the previous Willoughby Community Plan and the Jericho Neighborhood Plan. Should it not receive final adoption by, I believe, 2028, then they would be subject to the new Willoughby Transit Corridor Plan.
Okay, so this is going through under the old plan that was replaced.
To your worship, to Councillor, that's correct.
Okay, and is the old plan that was replaced one of those plans that is subject to provincial legislation about no public hearing required?
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, the provincial legislation that acts specifically with respect to public hearings amends the community charter, I believe, and that essentially would apply to all applications.
So does this one fall under that?
Your worship, to Councillor Richter, yes, if it's deemed to be plan compliant, then therefore it would, is for specifically for residential density, then it would not be subject to a public hearing.
Okay, but this is not being more dense than anything else. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy to see this application, particularly the hotel rooms. That's a real need in this community, so I'm really happy that the proponent has offered that up. I'm just wondering if I can, through staff, through the chair to staff, if there is the opportunity for meeting space on site in the commercial area, or is this strictly a place to stay or live? And any meetings would have to be at the LEC. I'm just thinking large group, a conference space, that sort of thing. If they've indicated.
To your worship, to Councillor Martins, I believe specifically this application is primarily focused on a rezoning, and we do have general drawings attached. I believe at as the attachment, we do have some site plans, but I believe they're still evolving, and there would be a development permit and a building permit. So we can review some of these items to see what the layout of the hotel is in specific conference spaces, etc. But I'll just defer to Mr. Richardson as well if we've had any of those discussions.
To supplement Mr. Kuna's comments, that's correct. So at this stage, we have the drawings that are associated with the plans, the specific development permit drawings, and more detailed floor plans for the hotel and associated uses would be detailed out further. So we don't have specifics of that at this time. Typically, those staff's understanding of hotel uses and that type of uses, they have some associated conference space.
Thank you. And if I can just put a plug in then, that it would be helpful having planned conferences locally in the past. We really need some more meeting space for conferences. So if that can happen, that would be great. But I'll just leave my thoughts there.
Yeah, on that, the hotel, so we don't see hotels coming to Langley very often, so everyone's really excited, but how does it work? Does the developer reach out to a hotel chain and then they come and take over the hotel portion of it? Or, because I'm just wondering what happens if the hotel doesn't come to fruition, because we've seen that before where plans have been made and then it doesn't work out the way that we'd hoped. So what happens to then the plan? Because right now we've got voluntary amenities tied to residential, but obviously not to hotel rooms.
To your worship, to Councillor Kuhn, so the specific application is a rezoning application. So what they're seeking is specifically a rezoning application for what the plan allows for, apartment use and hotel use. And they're proposing that. At this time, we are not aware at a staffing level who the end user would be and whether they will be developing it specifically for that purpose. That the market would dictate that, and the ownership group has the rights and liberty to decide what they would like to do with their property. So at this time, we're going through the regulatory process and the rezoning process. And then there's obviously several elements that the owner would have to take into consideration prior to development permit and building permit. And then I believe as that progresses, we would have more information to potentially advise council of.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I'm getting a little confused by these questions. Am I reading this right or wrong under development permits, bullet number 3? It says staff note the current site plan is conceptual and resolution of the above mentioned items may result in changes to the site layout, proposed number of units, hotel rooms, and commercial space. This is a real rough draft, and it's subject to all kinds of changes. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
Don't know why that came up again, sorry.
Seeing no discussion, call the question on G3. That carries unanimously. Item G4, zoning bylaw amendments, off-street loading space and accessible parking. I'll move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Councillor Pratt.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I know in previous instances where we've had bylaw changes like this, there has been some provision for in-stream protection on certain matters, and I'm wondering through yourself to staff if we were looking at potentially offering at least a 1-year in-stream protection on this item, how we might go about that today.
To your worship, to Councillor Pratt, there is specific in-stream protection with respect to this bylaw.
Okay.
The language already is included in the bylaw. I believe it's at the last page of the bylaw, which states that the bylaw comes into force in effect. The effect of the bylaw is suspended for 12 months from the date this bylaw comes into force for a development permit application or a building permit application made prior to the bylaw.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, seeing no discussion, Councillor Richter.
Yeah. G4 is again giving first, second, and third, but there's no public hearing, and then it's got a paragraph in it that says that staff, direct staff to consult on the street accessibility parking requirements with the public, stakeholders, businesses, and other affected parties. How does this eliminate the need for a public hearing or replace the need for a public hearing? Because basically you're getting the public input after we've approved it in principle. And then not just that, but we're going to give it final reading tonight too. Under I-4, I think it is.
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, so specifically the zoning bylaw amendments are just zoning bylaw amendments. So you can do all 4 readings at one meeting. We've separated the readings, 3 readings at G4, and then council can do final adoption, I believe, at I2 or I3 or I1. In any event, that specific zoning bylaw amendment that's brought forward is only with respect to off-street loading spaces and accessible parking. The subsequent motions are related to on-street. Essentially, staff are not proposing any amendments to the bylaw for on-street. They're saying that council direct us to do consultation on on-street. And then once we've done consultation on on-street and we receive funding for looking at options, then we would come forward with a bylaw for on-street parking. And then we're doing consultation prior to even bringing that zoning bylaw amendments forward.
Okay, so you're collecting public information for another bylaw that's eventually going to come to council.
That's correct.
Not this council, it'll be the next council.
That's correct. So the readings we're seeking today are specific to off-street. And what we're seeking is that we get direction to consultation for on-street and bring that bylaw forward later on.
Great, thank you for clarifying that.
All right, seeing no discussion, I'll call the question on G4. That carries unanimously. Item G5, 2026 subdivision and development servicing bylaw update, bylaw number 6211-6255. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on G5? Councillor Richter.
Yes, this is huge. Servicing bylaw, I mean, the report itself is basically 460 odd pages. I'm just curious why we wouldn't have had a staff presentation on this.
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, if council would like a presentation on it, council can give direction for staff to provide a presentation at the next council meeting.
Okay, but we're giving it first, second, and third. Are we bringing this back for final at the last council meeting of this term, July 27th?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, it's coming back for final then. And is this a bylaw that we can change to allow public input?
At your worship, to Councillor Richter, it's This is a subdivision development service bylaw, therefore if council directs a public input opportunity, I believe they have a right to do so, and there's, the legislation does not prevent that.
Okay, so how do I make sure that the public's getting to have input on this? I note that in the report, the draft bylaw was circulated to UDI, the Urban Development Institute, for review, and it does comment on their response, but there's no public or resident consultation named anywhere in the report, and yet there are a number of people who I think would want to have input on this simply because it deals with water and servicing and potentially aquifers. So how do I ask to do a motion now to change this from first, second, and third to first and second and allow for a public input opportunity? We've had UDI input, but there might be other stakeholders out there that want to say something.
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, there's a few options available if that's the intent. One of the options is the item can get referred back to staff to do public consultation, and then staff can do public consultation and potentially open house if that's what council's desire is. A second option is to do refer it for a public input opportunity, and then the public input opportunity can proceed, and then the readings can occur subsequent to that. So that those are the options potentially available for council if that's the desire.
Yeah, but if this is coming back next meeting, that's in 2 weeks. Is that time to get public input?
And through your worship to Councillor Richter, if the direction's given, it'd be very tight, but we could get the ad out and have the public input opportunity at the next meeting. But if it's public consultation, then we would be setting up, doing advertisements, setting up potentially open houses if that's the direction. So it depends on the method and some of the timelines are quite tight in nature.
Okay, well, the way you worded the first one makes sense to me. What was the wording on that again?
I'm just trying to remember myself. Was that the public consultation one? That refer back to staff for public consultation?
So refer back to staff for public consultation. And I'd like to get a staff presentation on it in the next meeting.
So it'd be a referral back to staff for public consultation and a staff presentation.
Okay, I would like to make that referral motion. Okay. I just think that's, like I say, the size of this report is huge. The potential for downstream impact is huge. I think we're missing the public having a say piece of it, which in my mind is a big thing. It's giving a 12-month grandfathering window in it. It's creating a new delegated authority. So I would really like to hear what the public has to say about this.
All right, seeing no discussion, I'll call the question on the referral of G5. That's defeated. Councillor Bailey, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Pratt, Councillor Rent, Mayor Woodward opposed. Is there any other discussion on G4? G5, sorry. Councillor Martins.
Yeah, thank you. Can I make another referral motion, refer back to staff for public, like the first half of the last motion? Can I do that? I think it was refer back to staff for public consultation.
We defer to the chair on that ruling to see if that's in line with the previous motion. Referral back to staff for a public consultation and staff presentation.
So I'm looking at just, I think it's really important to have the public consultation. Yeah, so I would move that referral. That's all. I think the public consultation is really important. This is a pretty big document here on a lot to it, so.
All right, with that, call the question on that referral. And that's defeated. Councillor Bailey, Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Pratt, Councillor Rint, Mayor Woodward opposed. Is there any other discussion on G5? Seeing none, call the question on G5. That carries with Councillor Richter opposed. G6, proposed green building permit rebate program increases, bylaw number 6238, 6239. Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion on G6? No, seeing none, call the question on G6. That carries unanimously. Bylaws for final adoption, I1, highway closure and dedication removal, bylaw 6132, 6133. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on I1? Seeing none, call the question on I1. That carries unanimously. I2, highway closure and dedication removal, bylaw number 6220. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there discussion on I2? Seeing none, call the question on I2. Carries unanimously. I3, 2027 permissive tax exemptions. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on I3? Seeing none, call the question on I3. All right. So we'll go back. Councillor Whitmarsh, go ahead.
Yeah, just, the question was, in there, it says it replaces Schedule B and C with a new Schedule B and C, and I'm just wondering what the difference is between the old B and C and the new B and C schedules.
I believe it's just a change in the properties.
Sorry, say that again?
Through your worship to Councillor Whitmarsh, I believe it was a change in the properties.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
That carries unanimously. I4, zoning bylaw amendments for final adoption, bylaw number 6235. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Any discussion on final adoption of I4? Seeing none, call the question on I4. That carries unanimously. Mayor and council reports. Anybody wish to make a report? Councillor Pratt.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sure, every member of council has lots to report, but I just wanted to highlight one thing in particular and give a huge shout out to the township staff who are behind the summer concert series. Kicked off this past Thursday with a tremendous crowd for the dueling pianos. Absolutely fantastic to be out there at the Langley Events Center watching all of the people come out and enjoy the concert, the market, the pickleball courts, the FIFA field, the basketball courts, the volleyball court. Willoughby Community Park there has really turned into a pretty fantastic destination. So I want to commend all the staff who've had anything to do with designing that park, planning that park, but also programming it with the summer concert series in the past and as well this year moving forward.
Yeah, pretty busy time dealing with things like Canada Day at McLeod Park was I think an example of how to run it, because the traffic that was around that, especially for the evening, was incredible. The BC Farm Museum Canada Day was just a really nice community event, and it was great to see some other ones out there, like the Gateway of Hope Community Care Day, where my RCMP partner and my community partner again flipped hot dogs for a few hours. But also it's a great event because it gives things like free haircuts, Hep C testing, pediatric care, and all kinds of other really needed things for the population that's on the street. The local 4550 golf tournament was a success again. I have to say I'm a little off today because I just finished with the MS ride that used to be in Langley that's now in Chilliwack. A little over 100 Ks in 2 days for this old body. It's not the best thing to do. And finally, the watch party at the stadium just highlighted a few things. One, the community event. I had some people saying, why aren't you charging $5 a head? And I'm going, because it's great to have some great free community events, and it was supported, I believe, by the amount of families that were there. And lastly, what a great facility LEC is, and I mention again what Councillor Pratt said is that that facility. I went and watched half the Langley Thunder Senior A game, and then I walked over and watched the last half of Vancouver Football Club play against Montreal. And I don't know of very many other venues that can support that kind of community events in one location.
Yeah, echoing all of these same sentiments, especially I was at the Canada Day at McLeod Athletic Park out in Aldergrove at the Legion and BC Farm Museum. And of course, everyone's super hyped up on FIFA World Cup, and it's just so great to see, you know, different countries, different people cheering for their countries come together and try to out-cheer each other. But yeah, no, it's up at the LEC too. I mean, that facility, you know, I think it was a really great decision, you know, making sure that facility happened, and that was, of course, a previous council decision. So just wanted to throw that in there. But anyway, to all our staff at the township, you know, the Canada Day went to the fireworks, and there were so many people. And you know what? At the end of the day, people don't care about politics on Canada Day. They just want to watch the fireworks and have a good time. So I was just really happy to be there and listen to the dueling pianos. And yeah, thank you to our staff. You guys do an incredible job of organizing our community.
Yeah, thank you. As others have said, I too attended the Canada Day celebrations in Fort Langley and in Aldergrove at the Legion and at McLeod Athletic Park. I was honored as acting mayor to raise the flag at the BC Farm Museum alongside former councillor Bob Long. Residents shared positive feedback about the event and all these events, and appreciated seeing council members present and engaged in the community. And these celebrations build community pride and provide valuable opportunities to connect. I also toured Windsong Co-Housing, a unique neighborhood in Walnut Grove focused on shared resources, sustainability, and strong neighbor connections. I spoke with the residents about the benefits of community living, including affordability, support networks, and reduced social isolation, something that's come up at this table today. And this is an example of innovative housing models that support diverse and resilient neighborhoods. And Windsong is celebrating their 30th anniversary this year. And finally, Global Fest at Douglas Park celebrated many cultures that contribute to our community through food and music and cultural performances, and attendees expressed appreciation for opportunities to celebrate their heritage and to connect with their neighbors from different backgrounds. Global Fest fosters inclusion, belonging, and a stronger sense of community for all residents. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. What else can I say other than a big shout out to staff again for all the events, both at FIFA events and obviously McLeod Athletic Park and Canada Day. Thousands of people were involved, and it was a great event, and many, many happy people and young families and people of all ages, both young and old. I also wanted to point out, I also attended the BT Farm Machinery as well. Years back, I've helped out with that particular museum, and it was a great event and also family event. One other thing, a very important thing, the citizenship at the Fort Langley National Historic Park many new citizens, new Canadians coming forward. We at the township were able to hand out flags and shake a lot of hands, and it was a great event. Yes, I did go to the golf tournament as well. Councillor Bailey pointed out the firefighters, and it's a great charity. My golf game wasn't all that good, but we had a lot of fun, and I was very happy to see that many of the sponsors, from anywhere from ball hockey to the Giants to the other facility people that are involved with our community. It was a great event. And that's pretty well it. It was a great, great opportunity for many of our councillors. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to also echo all the shout outs and congratulations to township staff for really the amazing work they do on these public events. Canada Day in particular was one that I was at, and I saw nothing but happy faces, happy families, happy people everywhere. So thank you, staff. I'd also like to send a shout out to a local business here in Langley who I think has put Langley tourism and the township on the map for a Renaissance festival of all things. And I had the opportunity to attend on Saturday. I was just amazed by the number of people there. I'm sure it was well over 1,000 people. And everybody had these amazing costumes on, and they were just having a great time. So thank you, Festina Lente, for putting Langley Township on the map for an incredible new tourism event.
Yeah, I think this time of year is an amazing time of year. It's a busy time of year for all members of council attending events. And certainly, as has been mentioned, our staff here in the township do an amazing job. So really appreciate them and want to support them and all they do. They do such great work for our community. And without mentioning any specific events, I would say the other thing that is really noticeable, particularly in the summer, even though you notice it all year round, is the number of people in our community who volunteer their time for all the different events that we attend and go to. It's just incredible. I think Langley maybe is the volunteer capital of Canada, and if it's not, I think it should be named that. And I just, really appreciate that because it really creates an amazing place for families and individuals and people in Langley to enjoy and attend all kinds of different events that are interesting to them. And so I just want to give a great big thanks to all those that really volunteer in our community and give so much back. And you don't always get appreciated for it, but without you, we wouldn't have this dynamic community that we have today. So thank you.
Any other council report? There you go. Councilor Ritt. I think I put my mistake. Any other mayor and council report? Any Metro Vancouver regional report? No. Any Councilor Ferguson? Go ahead. Yeah.
If I may, can I get the clerk to our staff to put up this is information item that Metro Vancouver is returning to stage 2 water restrictions effective July 16th. And I won't read it out other than the key changes are sprinklers, soakers and others are able to be permitted and another number of other uses. And it's good to know that we're no longer, and the reason for that is the Stanley Park water main was and connection system was repaired. So good news going from stage 3 to stage 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other move on to items for information? Anything M1 through 4? Councilor Richter.
Yeah, I'd just like to extend a sincere thanks to staff. I believe it's Mr. Cooner and Ms. Bauer for the work that they've done on setting up the local general election for 2026. This 2-page document is a wealth of information for anyone who's contemplating running for council in that municipal election or for school board. And I really recommend it that you print it out and stick it up on your bulletin board.
Any other discussion on items 1 through 4? No, seeing none, we'll move on to Councillor Pratt. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, in response to a couple of, well, I'd say more than a couple actually, multiple instances of residents reaching out, I would move the motion as written.
Seconded by Councillor Wynn.
Yeah. Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, these streets in particular are seeing pretty high levels of volume of traffic in areas that I don't know if these residents anticipated experiencing that, whether it's due to construction ongoing on roads surrounding them, whatnot, but safety is becoming a significant issue in these areas, and the traffic calming measures here would go a long way to help alleviate those concerns.
Okay, seeing no other discussion, I'll call the question on 01. Carries unanimously. Councillor Bailey?
I'd like to move this. Yeah, the reason I'm bringing it forward partially is for awareness, because over the last little while, I've had some replies about let's have some veterans crosswalks and other ones. And I thought, you know what? Here's a community speaking in that. There are 3 veterans crosswalks that were brought forward and actually moved by Councillor Martins. And I think it would be interesting to see if the residents would like to look at other forms of actually public art. And some of the things that could be included in here are all kinds of creative designs that would recognize things. And I put in there some things like veterans' interest, indigenous interest, historical, whatever. And I think it would be very interesting to see how the public would respond. We get the guidelines and costs put in by staff. And one thing that comes to mind is that we already have money budgeted annually for the Rainbow Crosswalk, and it could cost even less if people would quit marking up things like public property, like the Rainbow Crosswalk in Fort Langley, and then that money that would not be used for repairing that crosswalk could be used for newer crosswalks. And this would not apply, because it can't apply to major roads. It can only be to off-traffic roads and to things exactly like the Veterans Crosswalks are at the Legion in Aldergrove, and the Rainbow Crosswalks are also like at the RCMP detachment. So yeah, just like to see what the public has to say about possibly having some creative public art on our streets.
Yeah, I think the intent is good here, but I'm a little worried about the effect. And in particular, therefore be it resolved that staff create an annual public input process. Is that in our policy right now? And if it is in our policy right now, how do we ensure that the charter rights of all Canadians are protected in going for or inviting submissions from the public relative to crosswalks?
Dear Worship, to Councillor Richter, it's not currently in the policy right now. We would review this, and before we proceed, we'd advise council. We would essentially do a report to council, review what an annual public input process would look like, any risks, legal or of other nature or concerns prior to actually proceeding.
So, Mr. Cooner, is staff interpreting this as we need to bring a report on this back to council? Or do you need a motion that we refer this to staff for a report?
Unless the mover themselves can provide further clarification, but currently as it reads, our interpretation would be that would be bringing a report forward, as also that they're seeking guidelines and cost. So then we would provide that as well. So it reads as a report back to council, but unless there's further clarification that the mover can provide.
Okay, well, I think I'd like to move a referral on this to staff for a report to consider how the policy could be amended by council prior to implementing anything. Okay, I'd like to move a referral to staff for a report on how, I believe it's policy number 05-101, needs to be amended and brought back to council for approval. It says signed and marked crosswalks. What I'm really concerned about is respecting people's charter rights. And that means if we're going to have a process inviting submissions, how do we ensure that that process recognizes and respects the charter rights in both BC and Canada?
Somebody second it or no?
I'm seconding it.
Okay, seconded by Councilor Whitmarsh. Councilor Richter, go ahead. Let's just speak to it.
I think I said why I think a referral is necessary. I think we need a report from staff coming back to council before we action this motion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was a little sloppy in wording this, and the idea is that the staff would bring this back with the information dealing with this. I would not want anyone to be offended, and there are certain things that I would like to make sure, like I wouldn't like to see any flags, national flags on the ground, because that would go against policy of how you handle a flag. So no, I completely agree with this. I should have put that in the wording. Thank you.
Seeing no other discussion, I'll call the question on that referral. That carries. Councilor Ferguson, Councilor Ritt, Mayor Woodward opposed. All right, we'll move on to 03. Councilor Ritt.
I'm going to move 03 as written, and I think it's pretty clear and it speaks for itself.
On 03. Councilor Richter.
Okay, I'm just wondering why we're actioning this now. Given that we've only got one council meeting left on this term, and I'm not sure staff is going to have enough time with everything else on their plates to develop a report on it. Maybe I can ask for clarification through you to Mr. Cooner. Is it staff's understanding that this would be added to the staff work list and would come back to council whenever? So not necessarily the next meeting?
To your worship, Councilor Richter, that's correct. That's a fair characterization.
Okay. So you don't need a motion on that? That's the way you're going to interpret it?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no discussion, I'll call the question on 03. That carries unanimously. Item 04, Councilor Ritt, go ahead.
I'm moving 04 as worded, and it speaks for itself again.
I'll second that. Discussion on 04, Councilor Richter.
I'm going to ask the same question that I just asked Mr. Cooner on 03. Is it staff's interpretation that this will be added to the work list and will come back to council? Again, I'm not sure you can get a report on this done by July 27th, which is 2 weeks away.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no other discussion, I'll call the question on 04. That carries unanimously. Is there any other business? No, seeing none. Does anybody have an item for closed? Councilor Richter?
Yes, I'd like to add labor relations to closed, please.
All right. Ms. Bauer, I have a legal item to add. Is everything good there? All right. So I get a motion to resolve into closed as amended. Moved by Councilor Rent, seconded by Councilor Bailey. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries unanimously. Motion to terminate. Moved by Councilor Rent, seconded by Councilor Bailey. All those in favor? Opposed? And that carries. Thank you.